Hey, tea sippers. Hey. Hey. Hello. Lamar. Hello. Excuse me. Excuse me. Lord, there's so much going on. I can't. I can't catch my breath. Oh my goodness. Hey Cynthia, let me drink some water or something. Baby, when I say it's too much going on, yeah, he came out this morning. They got charges coming on him. Mega done turned on Trump. Excuse me. They talking about pardons and stuff. Boy, I said to myself, mine, you better sit your funny looking self down. You better sit your funny looking self down. Cause they are not playing with you. You done try to play in their face, and you done try to play in their face too long. And you have the nerve to be talking about you gonna consider a pardon? In one place they got impeachment shit trying to go in on you. Your whole party done turned on you. About that Epstein list. Are we still talking about that? Oh my God, he's been gone. Oh no, dude. They are on your ice. And talking about President Trump has stated he will certainly look at the facts when considering a pardon for you better stay away from anything that's saying sex, human trafficking, sex trafficking, snatch and grab a coochie, all of that. Stay away, because they are turning on you tonight. Now, that don't mean that they won't flip black. But they saying you done lied, you done stalled, now they want to see it. Somebody said it was on their desk, and now they said, oh, I meant everybody's is on my desk. They like, oh, hell no. Hell to the no. No. Hell to the no. To the no. Hey, plus size. Hey, Cynthia, I know I spoke Lamar. Yeah. That's what's going on. Judges wanting for Diddy, they want, for them to, I forgot what they call that. They ain't presidents. No, it's something else. Proceedings, something where they want you to do your own research, because he got in his mind what he want to give, but he want to be considerate, but he's sick of all of this going on. These George previously worked for the UN. He didn't properly disclose his employment. You could have been tied to Diddy. All of that. All of that. And then Sko went over there to Frisco to try to look at that tape with Carmelo Anthony. And everywhere he went, every corner he turned, they would not show him. They act like in some places they didn't even know what they was talking about. Oh, babe, I told y'all they was trying to cover that up. I told you it took too long for them to get it to the grand jury, and the grand jury kept denying it. Why? Because they didn't have nothing. So they just done conjured up something just to try to break them, try to make that family take some type of plea so that they can get some type of justice in their mind for Jeff. That's what they doing, y'all. They said in their mind, if we take to court, you know, niggers will take a plea in a minute, so it let him plea down, and so he can at least go to prison. No. Ain't nothing on that tape that I already said. Ain't shit you can see. They done made up. Anyway, yeah, all of that's going on. But let's go in. I'm finna chime in on here because I'm going to try to see if, because that Epstein list exists, and they are saying Trump name is on it. I'm sure Sean Diddy's name is on it too. So I know they're trying to hurry up. The defense is trying to come up with, now they probably going to want to get him on out. Because if whoever they send who knows the list and got the list, they insistent on that list and both their names on there. Oh my God. Oh my God. Hold on. Let's go in. They go a long way back. They go a long way back, y'all. Me and you, Trump. Go a long way back. Yep. Yep. Let's go. Let's go. It's not looking good for that human. So we got Big Joe, Kanye coming. Y'all know Jay-Z coming next, right? Y'all do know Jay-Z coming around the corner, right? Hold on. Hold on. Let me get to it. He should have left that Medicaid, Medicare alone. They may would have. I don't know, but it ain't looking good for him, and they not buying Trump's excuses. Big, where did it go? Yeah, where did it go? Yeah, where did it go? I don't know, because they was laughing in his face. Donald Trump, Epstein. What was he talking about? A pardon. Hold on, y'all. I thought I had it. Let's hear Sidebar. Let's hear what Sidebar's saying about it first. Hold on. Let's go.
Because when I tell you my stomach, disrespectfully flat. Like, I don't know.
Well, with the shocking news regarding Jeffrey Epstein this week, the conversation has now turned to Ghislaine Maxwell. Okay, and I'm going to explain why. Because as we discussed on previous sidebar, there was this DOJ FBI memo that was released a few days ago. And it describes how the Department of Justice and the FBI conducted, quote, an exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. How, quote, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, and network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas where responsive material may have been stored. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. The files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. And through that review of digital and documentary evidence, the DOJ, the FBI concluded the following, quote, "This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties." That is the section we want to focus on today, because obviously this is big news and surprising news. Surprising news, maybe not even necessarily from an investigative standpoint of what we've learned over the years from different lawsuits, but the perceived stance from the Trump administration, and also some of the commentary from high-profile people when it came to the Epstein files. There seemed to be this idea that all of the information and new information would be
this would be KK, y'all.
Their interpretation or not, that's the conversation. Because in February, President Trump's attorney, Alina Habba, told Piers Morgan there would, quote, be names that will come out. And America needs to remember one thing: we are going to be promises made, promises kept. There was even talk from Attorney General Pam Bondi that complicated the issue, because back in February, she said on Fox News, when asked if she would release, quote, list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients, she responded, "It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that." In March, she said to Fox News host Mark Levin, when he argued that perhaps Democratic officials in New York were not providing all of the Epstein information because they, quote, don't like the names on the list, and that they were, quote, trying to protect a lot of names and individuals, Bondi replied that she had, quote, not reviewed the information yet, but added, "I think it's very interesting that they withheld that from us." Now, not trying to get too political here, I'm going to get to the legal point I want to get to when it comes with Ghislaine Maxwell, but White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt seemed to do damage control, saying the other day that what Bondi was referring to about having the client list on her desk was, quote, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crime. That's what the Attorney General was referring to. Either way, and aside from the blowback and the criticism and the theories, the main question is that we want to talk about right now: does this affect Jeffrey Epstein's former associate, Ghislaine Maxwell? Remember, she was convicted in December of 2021 in New York federal court of conspiracy to entice minors to travel, to engage in illegal sex acts, conspiracy to transport minors to participate in illegal sex acts, transporting a minor to participate in illegal sex acts, sex trafficking conspiracy, and sex trafficking of a minor. And as the government argued, quote, from at least 1994 up to and including in or about 2004, Ghislaine Maxwell assisted, facilitated, and participated in Jeffrey Epstein's abuse of minor girls by, among other things, helping Epstein to recruit, groom, and ultimately abuse victims known to Maxwell and Epstein to be under the age of 18. Here's the thing. If there is no client list and there's no other criminal defendants,
thank you, Max,
does the case against her make sense? Could she get an argument to overturn?
Yeah, this would be KK.
So for that, let me bring in trial attorney Rich Schoenstein, friend of the show, friend of mine. Good to see you, Rich. Thanks so much for coming on.
Happy to be here, Jesse.
So before we even get into Ghislaine Maxwell, I haven't spoken to you since the news of the week. Your reaction to the memo this week?
Well, I want to focus on some of the language you read because we have to use air quotes. This statement that came out of the Department of Justice says there are no client lists, but it uses quote marks around the term client lists. Mm-hmm. There are no, the systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. What does that mean?
The list of clients.
What does that mean? They're not saying we didn't see the names of any people in these files. They're simply saying there wasn't a list, that maybe Jeffrey Epstein didn't maintain a consolidated list of all the people that he brought underage women to, right? He didn't write it down in one place. There is no comprehensive list. But it doesn't mean there weren't names in these files. It doesn't mean there weren't faces on the videos. It doesn't mean there isn't email traffic or other evidence incriminating people. And what I'm reading here says we didn't see a client list, so everybody keep on moving. There's nothing to see here.
Yeah, but he said it was.
That's my reaction.
He said it was a client's list.
About Ghislaine Maxwell's federal case. You know how in federal court
he said it was a client's list.
Devices. We talked about in the Sean Combs case. Very frustrating because how great would it have been to have Claude Nope in there?
Oh,
so this tiny wearable AI-powered device completely changed, or scan the QR code on screen. Hope you can check it out. Yeah, well, again, they also said there was no blackmailing and we didn't uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. They're basically saying it was Epstein and Maxwell alone. And when you hear that, that's the part where I hear you. There might be no consolidated
that's
list
Diddy
in his bedside drawer.
and that's KK.
But, you know, the idea basically what they're saying is there's no other people to charge at this time or to investigate. And what's interesting is this is the commentary we've been getting. You get comments from Elon Musk posting on X. What's the time? Oh, look, it's no one has been arrested o'clock again. And remember, he famously accused Trump not too long ago of being on the Epstein list. There was conservative activist Laura Loomer who wrote on X, if she doesn't get fired over this Epstein memo, people are going to be so black-pilled. You have influencer Liz Wheeler who said on the Glenn Beck show, contextualizing all of this, this seems like unforgivable behavior. So the question becomes, you know, aren't they trying to close the door on investigating anybody else connected with Jeffrey Epstein? Aren't they saying there is no one else?
I think that is what they're saying. Now, so Elon Musk is wrong when he says no one was arrested, right? Because Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested. So it's not nobody was arrested.
Are you on the list, sir?
Other people here, but, you know, think about this historically. We don't tend to go after the Johns. We don't tend to go after the people who pay the prostitutes or get the services of sex workers. We tend to go after the workers and the people who facilitate that and the sex traffickers.
We do if they were minors, sir. You sound like you're making excuses.
There were other people involved, but we're not going to prosecute them because that's not the way we expend our resources. That's not quite the way they're saying it. They're really trying to say more, you know, we don't have enough evidence to charge anybody else. I'm a little skeptical about that, to tell you the truth.
Well, now I have to get to the main aspect of this, because this has come up a lot now. So the question now is, does this affect Ghislaine Maxwell? Because how many times have people already made the argument, well, wait a second, she was convicted of sex trafficking, but sex trafficking these victims to who? In other words, if the government is coming out and saying now that there are no other clients, then does it make sense that she was convicted of essentially operating this extensive sex trafficking operation? Let me add a little bit more context to this. You have a political activist named Jack Posevich, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name, wrote on X, if there were no clients, why is Ghislaine Maxwell still in jail? You had podcasters, the Hodge twins, who wrote, Ghislaine Maxwell was in prison for 20 years for sex trafficking kids with Epstein, and the DOJ and FBI just said that there's no client list. He didn't blackmail nobody, and nobody else is getting charged, so they sex traffic kids to nobody? And then you tell me, are those fair criticisms, or is this a misunderstanding of what the criminal trial against Ghislaine Maxwell was about?
I think it's a misunderstanding of what the trial was about, and it's a misunderstanding about how the criminal justice process works. So let me break that down a little bit. She was convicted of sex trafficking based on evidence presented.
Now, mind you, he had a private island too, where he had an island, Epstein Island, sound like Star Island. Their whole setup was just like Diddy, mysteriously, you know, deadlock, cannot change, will not change, can't stop, won't stop, and they come back, go home, go to sleep, come back, and you know. No, nothing. No research. Now you got this Tourette's guy can't stop blinking. You know, he coming out saying that they deliberated before they was even supposed to. Yesterday, Trump was saying there's no list. There's no list. They saying, oh, yes, it is. And now we looking at you funny because you said that you was going to investigate it and that you was going to present it. We deserve to know who was on the list because there were minors and kids that was there. But I think right now y'all don't want to do that because of Diddy, because his name is probably on their list along with Trump's. So how you gonna try to pardon Diddy when you got your own XXX trafficking going on? What's going on? Hey, what's going on? Yeah. So it ain't good timing. Now that's the Supreme Court, that citizenship stuff that you was trying to get past and something else they had gave you okay for, now they moonwalking back off of that. They said, hold up, partner, hold up. I just found out my grandmama on a Medicaid, Medicare. Oh, shit. Now, wait a minute. It ain't just affecting the blacks and the poors. It ain't just population control. Yeah, let's go.
A month-long trial in court. And apparently that evidence didn't include a client list because we've never seen a client list. We're now told there is no client list. So it wasn't amongst the evidence that was used against her. She could have sex trafficked only to herself and to Jeffrey Epstein.
No.
If the evidence was that she brought underage girls to have sexual relations with Epstein.
Stop that.
And or with her,
he lied.
That would be enough. You don't need any clients. You don't need anybody else. That is still sex trafficking, and she could have been convicted for that fairly and squarely. So I don't think any client list was necessary to her prosecution, but it wasn't part of her prosecution. And so here's the procedure point I want to bring up. If you are convicted of a crime, you can appeal based on mistakes that happened in the trial, errors of law, the judge did something wrong, the jury did something wrong. You can appeal on that basis. Occasionally, you can seek to overturn a conviction based on newly found evidence. If there's evidence that comes out that all of a sudden demonstrates you're not guilty or points the finger at somebody else, there are mechanisms to go back to court and say, I was wrongly convicted. But that's not this case. You can't go back to court to overturn a conviction because you find out there's evidence that doesn't exist, right? What's the argument?
I guess the argument, if the elements were that she sex trafficked to multiple people, including Epstein, then I think they would have an argument, right? If the element of a charge was it has to be she sex trafficked these individuals to multiple people, then I think they have an argument. But look, let me read you the specific language. So this is some of the specific language that was used by the prosecution. And when I say specific, I mean this was very, very deliberate how they said it. So the victims were as young as 14 years old when they were groomed and abused by Maxwell and Epstein. Okay, no one else. Both of whom knew that their victims were in fact minors. As a part and in furtherance of their scheme to abuse minor victims, Maxwell and Epstein enticed and caused minor victims to travel to Epstein's residences in different states, which Maxwell knew and intended would result in their grooming for and subjection to sexual abuse. As Maxwell and Epstein intended, these grooming behaviors left minor victims vulnerable and susceptible to sexual abuse by Epstein, period. That was it, only person. Maxwell was then present for certain sexual encounters between minor victims and Epstein, such as interactions where a minor victim was undressed, and ultimately was present for sex acts perpetrated by Epstein on minor victims. That's deliberate language right there. They weren't trying to make this a bigger case than it was.
That's right. And that's exactly what I said. This is about trafficking to Epstein and Maxwell, not to anybody else. There's no allegation in what you just read about other clients, and therefore there's no allegation about
That's not true, because that prince, one of those princes, not Harry, Charles, not, oh man, I can't think of his name. He was on that list. That girl who unalived herself because she was trafficked at a young age, there is a list. So I don't know who you are, but you're not being truthful.
Existence or non-existence of a client list is completely irrelevant to her prosecution and her conviction. The claim in her case was that she trafficked minors who were abused by herself and by Epstein. Evidence was presented to that jury, which they credited.
Epstein gave Diddy, sound like he was doing it first. He gave him the blueprint, because they did the same thing. He had that lady doing the same thing, just like KK. Only difference is Ghislaine, whatever, however she say her name, she was banging on them babies too.
I don't see any way that's getting overturned just based on this latest announcement.
You know, there people might look at it and say, wait a minute. There's no way she could have done it herself. In fact, during her trial, I believe Juan Alessi, who was a house manager, had testified that she directed him. Epstein and her directed him.
Well, Diddy and KK would be tried different if and when they indict KK, just like Jeff, what's his name? Epstein. They were charged separate. Same thing. What's the difference? People kept saying, I ain't no racketeering with one person. Yes, it is. They've done it before. I don't know why we act like it ain't never been done before. Ain't no Rico one person. Yeah, yes, it has. Yeah, it has. And people in jail, and they not black. Black ain't the only ones that's in there under them same exact charges. They charges were very, very similar. I just don't remember seeing no man act with them, and it was.
To contact and pick up girls for these massages. So somebody will look at the news and say, again, I don't understand this. How could she operate this sex trafficking operation alone? And maybe and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate, could the defense say, well, wait a second, if this news came out before the trial, we would have made the argument, there's no way that one woman could have done all this on her own. The government's case falls apart. We would have presented that defense, and particularly if the government comes out and says there's no third parties. Is that a stretch?
Yeah, I mean, you could have made that. You could have presented that defense anyway. By the way, I don't think that vindicates her to say that there were other people involved. There are loads of cases where one of the conspirators gets tried and convicted and others don't for various reasons. Sometimes because they turn evidence, sometimes because the cases against them aren't that important or isn't that compelling, and sometimes because they're not the focus of the prosecution. Prosecutors tend to go for the top, the heads of the criminal misconduct. So here they went after Epstein and they went after Maxwell. And they may not have gone after everybody who had some participatory role. That doesn't exonerate her. That's not enough to do it.
Yeah, look at the Sean Combs case, right? He was charged with sex trafficking, and he was, I don't even know if I want to use the word almost, but there was a potential that he was going to be convicted of that as the only person who allegedly sex trafficked Cassie and Jane. So it's not outside the realm of possibility. Like you said, I think you laid it out very well, that she could be the only person who was brought up on sex trafficking charges that was actually went to a resolution. She was convicted, and sex trafficking of these victims to Jeffrey Epstein as the sole person. Now, you're a great litigator. How could I not ask you about the lawsuits, okay? So let's talk about this. Through litigation, what have we seen over the years? A lot of accusations. Prince Andrew was accused of sexual assault. He settled a
Prince Andrew
against him. He's always denied the claims, though. You had famed Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre, who tragically died in April, who claims that she was forced to have sex with New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, billionaire hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin, French model scout Jean-Luc Brunel. She also famously accused lawyer Alan Dershowitz as being one of the men that Epstein had pimped her out to. Not only, by the way, has he adamantly denied those allegations each and every time, but Giuffre actually dropped her own lawsuit against him a few years ago. The question now is, based on what the government just said, is all of that meaningless? And what do I mean?
Hey, Ella.
Is there no merit based on this announcement? Do we say none of this can be true? There is no list. It means that there were no other people, there were no other alleged abusers, there was no one else that was involved. Is that interpretation we have to make?
No, I don't think so, for two reasons. One is we go back to the age-old discussion that a prosecutor's burden of proof is much higher than in civil court. So it may be that the prosecutors don't believe there's adequate evidence to go after any other people, but a civil litigant, especially a civil litigant who claims they were personally abused, thinks there is adequate evidence to go forward in a court. And if there's a civil litigant who is going to say, this person, I was trafficked to this person and they abused me, then they're still going to have a claim. And again, the fact that there is no client list, if that is true, by the way, the fact that there is no list doesn't mean there were no clients. I mean, if you were running a business of transporting underage women to clients, you might not want to write down their names. You might think, you might have been prescient and thought it would be a bad idea to write down their names. So there is no client list. But is there other evidence? Are there communications? Do we have records of travel? Do we have photographs of people? Do we have testimony that I was sent to this person on this date and he or she abused me? All of that evidence is still in the realm of possibility, and civil suits will go forward, and eventually they'll be confronted with, is there enough evidence there to go to trial? And if they do go to trial, is there enough evidence to convince a jury? But at least at the outset, I think those suits can go forward, even if the government says there's not enough here to prosecute.
In other words, that's the key there. You've seen cases before where the prosecutors will say, yeah, there's not enough evidence to go forward with a charge here. Okay, we don't believe that we can make the case for a variety of reasons, but that does not preclude someone from filing a lawsuit against that individual under the same set of facts, the same set of circumstances. And then by the way, how many times have we seen a case where somebody is found not guilty at a trial, and yet they could be found liable or at least sued in a civil context? So that's the way you're basically saying we should be thinking about this right now. Despite the conclusion of the government, a civil case can practically go forward and may even be successful because we're talking about a totally different area of law.
Right, and we're seeing two examples of that right now. Karen Reed was just acquitted, but there's civil litigation against her that will proceed. Sean Combs, you mentioned a few minutes ago, he was just acquitted, but there are dozens of civil cases that I expect to proceed against him anyway. Being found not guilty or not having been prosecuted does...
Oh, this civil cases and another couple indictments coming on Sean Puffy. That's why I'm trying to tell old red orange man, you better lead Diddy where he at. Cause they staring down your neck, baby. And I want to hear this man who say he know you and he know the list and he know the people. So I would suggest, you're a narcissist and your ass is about to be exposed because they ain't falling for the banana in the tailpipe. You done bragged about it, you done talked about it, and now these people who've been having your back, even though they know your ass is crazy as hell, allegedly, they saying we ain't going. You done lied one too many times, because there are some innocent kids out there who, and if it's people on there that need to be exposed, god dang it, you better expose them, even including if it's yourself. That's where they at right now. So I would suggest you let Diddy deal with his own stuff. If he get that 10, 20, whatever, let his ass sit where you may be on your way. Okay.
The trial, is there enough evidence to convince a jury? But at least at the outset, I think those suits can go forward, even if the government says there's not enough here to prosecute.
In other words, that's the key there. You've seen cases before where the prosecutors will say, yeah, there's not enough evidence to go forward with a charge here. Okay, we don't believe that we can make the case for a variety of reasons, but that does not preclude someone from filing a lawsuit against that individual.
Hold on, y'all. I need to hear this. Hold on.
Agents and attempting to incite a civil. A Tennessee man who was pardoned by President Trump has been sentenced to life in prison for plotting to attack FBI agents and attempting to incite a civil war. Edward Kelly was the fourth rioter to enter the Capitol on January 6th. He faced a separate investigation for targeting federal agents who were looking into his role in the Capitol attack. Now Kelly is set to spend the rest of his life behind bars.
So he got pardoned. Y'all hear that? Can y'all hear that? He was pardoned. Man who was pardoned for January 6th get life in prison for plotting to incite a civil war attack FBI agent. So he can, how many times can he be pardoned though? I think Trump needs to leave them pardons alone. Hold on.
A Tennessee man who was pardoned by President Trump has been sentenced to life in prison for plotting to attack FBI agents and attempting to incite a civil war. Edward Kelly was the fourth rioter to enter the Capitol on January 6th. He faced a separate investigation for targeting federal agents who were looking into his role in the Capitol attack. Now Kelly is set to spend the rest of his life behind bars. For more, let's bring in CBS News Justice correspondent Scott.
He wasn't one of the ones that was at that.
What happened in this case?
Yeah, Jolie, our CBS
Frisco,
News
was
review
he?
of this case shows that according to the Department of Justice,
it
was during the investigation of Edward Kelly's role in January 6th that he began targeting the FBI agents and the FBI overall, or part of the investigation into him. This began in 2022. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, there was some type of plotting, amassing of resources, if not a plan and a way to execute the plan to target federal agents. They call it conspiracy for murder. So Edward Kelly, who was pardoned on January 20th for his role in the U.S. Capitol insurrection, now faces a life prison term for what he did while under investigation for the U.S. Capitol insurrection. There has been, as this weekend, no pardon for Edward Kelly in this separate case, which is being prosecuted in the Eastern District of Tennessee.
How many other people who were pardoned by the president have since faced new criminal investigations, Scott?
Oh, there have been some, including one who was arrested just days later on a gun charge, and another, a Texas man who was actually freed from prison because of the pardon, not just having his slate clear, but was actually released from the prison gates, who was later charged with child solicitation. That's what's happened so far. But one of the warnings that Justice Department officials gave during the Biden administration was that if there are pardons, these are people with a history of recidivism, of criming again after they get released, and we're seeing that play out already here in 2020.
Why don't they say Biden and Trump is
to the FBI's planned move of its headquarters to the former office of USAID? What have you learned?
This is a controversial move. The FBI changing offices the 50-year-old generation was that if there are pardons, these are people with a history of recidivism, of criming again after they get released, and we're seeing that play out already here in 2025.
You also have some new reporting on the opposition to the FBI's planned move of its headquarters to the former office of USAID. What have you learned?
This is a controversial move. The FBI changing offices, leaving the 50-year-old J. Edgar Hoover building, which, to put it charitably, is falling apart, to a different office space in Washington, D.C., in the Ronald Reagan building. That may seem bureaucratic, but there are a lot of concerns here. First of all, because law and funding require it to move to Maryland. A new site was being planned out and soon would be constructed in Greenbelt, Maryland. The Trump administration is defying that and instead deciding to move in Washington, D.C. to an area that critics say is not properly secured and not properly equipped to house the nation's top law enforcement investigating agency.
But do they want it to be secure? I don't trust nothing they do. Why would you intentionally move there and it ain't secure? And people who need to be in jail, yeah, for starting a wars within our country, you let them out. But you do that shit on purpose. So that
site was being planned out and soon would be constructed in Greenbelt, Maryland. The Trump administration is defying that and instead deciding to move in Washington, D.C. to an area that critics say is not properly secured and not properly equipped to house the nation's top law enforcement investigating agency. We expect, Jolene, there to be legal challenges and congressional efforts to defund
so these fools are trying to let
Washington, D.C. and force this thing to go to Maryland.
All I'm going to say is right now Trump needs to leave him alone and deal with his own investigation.
There's also some developments in the federal probe examining the death of Daniel Park, who was charged in connection with the bombing of that fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California. What's the latest there?
Is things happen so quickly, it's easy to lose track of some of these very emergent issues from a few weeks ago. But you'll recall that explosion, that bombing of the fertility clinic in California. There is a man charged with being a co-conspirator. His name is Daniel Park from Washington State. He died in prison while awaiting prosecution on the conspiracy charge. He's 32 years old. Anytime a 32-year-old dies while in custody, there's going to be some questions. His defense lawyer tells CBS News tonight that this likely was a death by suicide, that it raises questions how somebody can die by suicide inside a U.S. federal correctional facility while being held in a high-profile case. There's going to be questions asked by his family and by investigators inside a Los Angeles detention facility, about which questions have been raised already about conditions inside.
Scott McFarlane, thank you so much for all that reporting.
Okay, let's get back over here.
Hello, Mo. Enjoy a cinema experience on a bright ultra-wide display amplified by immersive stereo speakers with bass boost.
By the way, how many times have we seen a case where somebody is found not guilty at a trial and yet they could be found liable or at least
let's back up.
For a great litigator? How could I not ask you about the lawsuits, okay? So let's talk about this. Through litigation, what have we seen over the years? A lot of accusations. Prince Andrew was accused of sexual assault. He settled a civil lawsuit against him. He's always denied the claims, though. You had famed Epstein accuser Virginia Giuffre, who tragically died in April, who claims that she was forced to have sex with New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, billionaire hedge fund manager Glenn Dubin, French model scout Jean-Luc Brunel. She also famously accused lawyer Alan Dershowitz as being one of the men that Epstein had pimped her out to. Not only, by the way, has he adamantly denied those allegations each and every time, but Giuffre actually dropped her own lawsuit against him a few years ago. The question now is, based on what the government just said, is all of that meaningless? And what do I mean by that? Is there no merit based on this announcement? Do we say none of this can be true? There is no list. It means that there were no other people, there were no other alleged abusers, there was no one else that was involved. Is that interpretation we have to make?
No, I don't think so, for two reasons. One is we go back to the age-old discussion that a prosecutor's burden of proof is much higher than in civil court. So it may be that the prosecutors don't believe there's adequate evidence to go after any other people, but a civil litigant, especially a civil litigant who claims they were personally abused, thinks there is adequate evidence to go forward in a court. And if there's a civil litigant who is going to say, this person, I was trafficked to this person and they abused me, then they're still going to have a claim. And again, the fact that there is no client list, if that is true, by the way, the fact that there is no list doesn't mean there were no clients. I mean, if you were running a business of transporting underage women to clients, you might not want to write down their names. You might think, you might have been prescient and thought it would be a bad idea to write down their names. So there is no client list. But is there other evidence? Are there communications? Do we have records of travel? Do we have photographs of people? Do we have testimony that I was sent to this person on this date and he or she abused me? All of that evidence is still in the realm of possibility, and civil suits will go forward, and eventually they'll be confronted with, is there enough evidence there to go to trial? And if they do go to trial, is there enough evidence to convince a jury? But at least at the outset, I think those suits can go forward, even if the government says there's not enough here to prosecute.
In other words, that's the key there. You've seen cases before where the prosecutors will say, yeah, there's not enough evidence to go forward with a charge here. Okay, we don't believe that we can make the case for a variety of reasons, but that does not preclude someone from filing a lawsuit against that individual under the same set of facts, the same set of circumstances. And then by the way, how many times have we seen a case where somebody is found not guilty at a trial, and yet they could be found liable or at least sued in a civil context? So that's the way you're basically saying we should be thinking about this right now. Despite the conclusion of the government, a civil case can practically go forward and may even be successful because we're talking about a totally different area of law.
Right, and we're seeing two examples of that right now. Karen Reed was just acquitted, but there's civil litigation against her that will proceed. Sean Combs, you mentioned a few minutes ago, he was just acquitted, but there are dozens of civil cases that I expect to proceed against him anyway. Being found not guilty or not having been prosecuted does not immunize you from civil litigation.
He ain't out the clear.
You said if there's no client list. What do you think was going on here? Do you believe that they did a thorough review of all of the material as they documented, and they come back and they say,
hey, Vicky,
first of all, we're not going to release half of this because we're not going to release pretty much all of it because it would just further exploit the victims in this case. There is no benefit to releasing this material. We went through it. As the interpretation, everything we saw was Jeffrey Epstein on those tapes with these minor victims, no one else. Because to come out with this statement, it's not like they had a deadline. It's not like they had to come out on that Monday and be like, all right, we're coming up with a decision where you have to. They released a statement that it seemed like they would hope would end the conversation. It clearly has not. What do you think was the rationale behind the federal government coming forward and saying there's no client list, there's no blackmail? By the way, Jeffrey Epstein was not killed. They also concluded that as well. No other third parties basically are going to be
sound like a cover-up.
What do you think the motivation was?
So, I mean, I think the motivation is to put the issue to bed, and I find myself a little conflicted here. I mean, you and I know each other pretty well, and I'm not a conspiracy theory guy.
Correct.
I don't buy most of the conspiracy theories, and you went over some names of some people who have been commenting about this and criticizing and questioning it, and they're not people that I ordinarily agree with on this kind of thing. But I do have to say, it's a little fishy.
It's
right?
so ill.
Pam Bondi said the list was on her desk. She said there was a list on her desk. And now a couple months later, we get an announcement that there is no list. I mean, that's just fishy.
It sure is fishy. I'm glad you at least admitted that.
I'm not a conspiracy theory guy.
Correct.
I don't buy most of the conspiracy theories. And you went over some names of some people who have been commenting about this and criticizing and questioning it. And they're not people that I ordinarily agree with on this kind of thing. But I do have to say, it's a little fishy, right? Pam Bondi said the list was on her desk. She said there was a list on her desk. And now a couple months later, we get an announcement that there is no list. I mean, that's just fishy. That's just not consistent. So I have questions about that. I've said, as I've explained, I have questions about what they mean by quote unquote client list and what other evidence may be there. I am sort of sympathetic to the idea that you don't want to release victim names to
that I agree with.
I get that,
especially if they minors.
I kind of get the idea that you don't want to just start releasing names if there's not clear evidence of misconduct, because you don't want to cast aspersions no matter whose name appears there. I get that, but I do have questions about this. I think it's an effort by the DOJ to put this to bed, to put this, Maxwell is convicted, Epstein is dead, and they're saying there is nobody else to prosecute, so this is over, and they want to put it to bed. But in trying to do so, they have raised some questions, I think some fair questions.
Do you think there's any possibility an investigation could be restarted, and what would that look like? What would cause that? Is it a change in leadership?
But go Diddy and KK.
I don't want to even, it's not a political show, but I am curious. Is it really put to bed? I mean, you could look at it and say, okay, they said there's nothing there.
She said she has the list on her desk. Now she's saying,
really on her desk.
Not that list.
Euphemism or something like that. She really wasn't referring to a client list. You could take that interpretation, or you could say,
restart the investigation. I agree.
It's going to take something to reignite this investigation. I don't know whether it's a lawsuit, whether it's an investigative documentary, whether it's news reporting, whatever it might be, whether it's a change at the DOJ.
As well as prosecute KK.
That this is not the end of the story, and that, again, I don't know if there's other people connected to Jeffrey Epstein. I have no idea. But
and she'll be the one that can be found guilty.
So, I don't know. And I take your point, we're not doing a political show here, so I'm going to go soft. But the DOJ is supposed to represent America. It's not supposed to change based on what political party is in office. They're supposed to prosecute cases as they see fit to prosecute, regardless of political influence. And unfortunately, we've seen a lot of political influence in the last year. We just have. So the DOJ is being guided by politics, which may or may not have something to do with this. One of the problems when you guide the DOJ for political reasons is then you put into question everything the DOJ does. This may be a purely legitimate decision of the DOJ not to prosecute something, and we're all thinking about politics because we know there's been political influences on the DOJ. It really mucks it up. So could a change in leadership change the approach? I imagine. Also, there's still state prosecutors. Also, there's still civil litigation, as we discussed. So I don't think the issue is dead. I think just the idea that the DOJ was going to come out with a list of names and prosecute people, that for the moment is dead.
Richard Schoenstein, great seeing you. Thanks so much for taking the time. Appreciate it.
Okay.
It's a pleasure.
Hold on, I'm not through. Hold on, I'm not finished. Hold on, I'm not, because it's going to be some problems with Epstein. That MAGA ain't playing with ODT. Hold on. They say it's brutal. Him. Before I forget, let's go here.
Sex between the year of 2000 and the year of 2002. When
this
she
our boy
was
Cking.
She claimed this occurred multiple times in locations, including in Florida,
her life.
New Mexico, and I think she said she was on Epstein's plane as well, on his private plane.
He got a private plane just like Diddy. I'm telling you, they mimic the same. They move the same.
This pan is proven to
Hold on.
Over 90,000 of our pans can be found delivering on the line of
What's going on with the volume?
Let me press 1 in the comment section, man. Salute to everybody that's in the building. Y'all already know what it is, man. Appreciate all of y'all, man.
Shout out to Ticket.
Pressure. Now, from the pressure, from the general
y'all
public,
double tap the screen on your phone.
From all the citizens. who are not jockstrap sniffers, but who are truth seekers. The pressure has mounted, and now the truth is starting to come out.
So
everybody, salute to all of you guys that are tapped on in. They have to protect this man at all costs right here on the right-hand side of your screen.
OG?
Excuse me, sir. Don't be coming in here trying to scream at me and yell at my chat, bro. See, that's the quickest way to get you out of here, brother. So, man, it's going down, man. Right now, everybody's been wondering what's been going on. Just to take y'all back just for a second, the DOJ and the FBI, Donald Trump's DOJ and his FBI was screaming to the high heavens before the election that they wanted the Epstein list to be released. Well, they got elected, got into office, and the people, the same people who voted for him, the MAGA people, and all these other people who voted for
they
him,
mad, baby,
held them to that word that they want the list released. Well, recently, Pam Bondi came out after originally saying that she had the list on her table, on her desk, and that she had to basically review it.
Now, y'all peep the time, though. Peep the time. Right after this mess going on with Diddy, right? His juror, this UN guy, come, all of that. All of it. Don't erase none of that. You put that over to the side and park it. I do not believe in coincidences like that. Let's go.
Why would you need to review it, or do whatever you had to do? She came back and then said, no, I wasn't talking about that. I was just saying in general. And now Donald Trump's DOJ and FBI are saying there is no list. There is no more information, no more files like that. It's just, there is no list of contacts or clients, or not a client, I should say, or this, that, and the third to be released. There's no more information. He took his own life, they're saying, and it's over with. End investigation. Well, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, because it just went down. And I'm going to tell y'all what's going on.
They're not going for it.
A man who is a witness in this case, who has been accused and who was accused with Jeffrey Epstein, has now come forward, and his name is Alan Dershowitz. Now, he is an American lawyer and a former Harvard Law School professor, known for his work in the U.S. Constitution and criminal law. Now, he taught at Harvard back from 1964 to 2013, holding the title of Felix Frankfurt Professor of Law. Now, Mr. Dershowitz has represented high-profile clients like Jeffrey Epstein, O.J. Simpson, Iron Mike Tyson, and your president, Donald J. Trump, and is a vocal defender of Israel, authoring books such as The Case for Israel 2003 came out. He also has been a media commentator on legal and political issues. Now, he had allegations that came out against him. That's the man on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, Alan Dershowitz was accused of sexual misconduct related to his association with Jeffrey Epstein, who we all know as the financier convicted of sex crimes, sex trafficking, of you-know-who's and you-know-whats. Now, Virginia Giuffre. Now, you guys remember we did an article on her on his channel a couple months ago. She passed away suddenly, and people tried to say that, hey, she passed away due to a unaliving of herself.
Right.
That wasn't what a lot of people are thinking. A lot of people are thinking that it was foul play. You understand what I'm saying? Now, in a 2014 court filing, Virginia, who was one of the victims of Epstein, right, in his sex trafficking, she alleged that Epstein trafficked her to this man on the right-hand side of your screen, ladies and gentlemen, for sex between the year of 2000 and the year of 2002, when she was underage.
Yeah.
She claimed this occurred multiple times in locations, including in Florida, in New York, New Mexico, and I think she said she was on Epstein's plane as well, on his private plane, private jet, whatever you want to call it, right? So another Epstein accuser as well, who went by the name of Sarah Ransom, she also alleged that Jeffrey Epstein directed her to have sex with this man on the right-hand side of your screen, Alan Dershowitz. Now, basically, Dershowitz was Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer in 2005, negotiating a controversial non-prosecution agreement that resulted in Jeffrey Epstein serving 13 months in jail with work release for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Now that deal drew scrutiny, especially after Jeffrey Epstein's 2019 arrest for sex trafficking. Now, Virginia Goulfried, a woman who had just passed away a couple months ago at a young age, sued Dershowitz, right, the man on the right-hand side of your screen, in 2019 for defamation after he denied her claims and accused her of lying for financial gain. Now, Mr. Dershowitz countersued Virginia and her lawyer, David Bowie, for defamation. Now, in 2022,
so shout out to the tea sippers that got a #1 crown and then a #1 by your name. Shout out to you. Shout out to my #2s and shout out to my #3s. But shout out, double shout out to the ones that got a #1. That means that they have been interacting with AunTeaFee. They ranking it now. It's automatically ranking the clients that's in the comments. That's what the 1, 2s, and 3s are. So if you want a 1 by your name, I need for you to start talking to me in the comment section, communicating. Let's go. Shout out to you with the #1s. Let's go.
Virginia, she dropped her allegations against
Sylvia got a #2,
stating that she, quote unquote, may have made a mistake in that situation now and identifying him as one of her abusers, citing the stressful and traumatic environment of her trafficking experience. The lawsuits between her, Boyce, and Dershowitz were all settled without monetary payouts. Now, all the claims that they all made against each other were dismissed. Now, Dershowitz has constantly denied all the allegations, claiming they were false and motivated by financial gain, and he pointed to evidence like travel records and an email from journalist Sharon Churcher suggesting Virginia include him in her book for publicity, arguing and showed that he was framed. Now, the other woman, Mrs. Ransom's allegations have not been retracted, but no criminal charges were filed against Dershowitz, and he maintains his innocence on that front, right? Now that y'all know who he is, now let's get into it. He has just come out, ladies and gentlemen, on the Sean Spicer show and claimed that he knows all the names on that list. He claims he knows everyone that's on that Epstein list. He claims that the list does exist. And he claims that they're protecting and suppressing the list to protect certain individuals. He claims that there are not only politicians on that list, but he claims that there are very, very powerful businessmen on that list as well. And he said he's seen the list and knows all the names. He said he knows all the names. Now, the only reason why he said that he cannot reveal the names is because he has been legally bound by a judge to not speak about this in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm going to let you guys hear what he had to say as far as revealing the names. But they need to protect this dude's life at all costs until they can get those names out this guy and that information out of this guy so that we can find out what in the blue hell is going on. Now, let's get to it.
It's really the lifelikeness of the technology. Pulled my phone out of my pocket at our executive team.
Jay-Z's and Diddy's and Trump's
what he said about those files.
I've seen, this is not an opinion, this is a fact. I have seen, remember, I was accused falsely on the Epstein, and ultimately I was completely cleared. The woman admitted that she may have mistook me for somebody else and withdrew all of her lawsuits. And so from day one, from the day I was accused, I said I want every document out because I knew every document I was innocent. So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed. and they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them, but I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong.
Just out of curiosity, without names, are these politicians, business leaders, both?
They're everything, and let me tell you, a lot of them are, at least one of them is somebody who was accused. Others are accusers, and the judges have said, if somebody calls themselves a victim, we're not going to give any information. Wrong.
Just out of curiosity, without names, are these politicians, business leaders, both?
They're everything, and let me tell you, a lot of them are, at least one of them is somebody who was accused. Others are accusers, and the judges have said, if somebody calls themselves a victim, we're not going to give any information about them, but they may not be victims. They may be perpetrators.
Now, let me say this to y'all. Here's the reason why I believe what he's saying. And I know a lot of y'all don't believe what he's saying, or may not believe what he's saying about that part. I believe him because he's an attorney. And when you're an attorney and you have a case, you deal with attorney-client privileges, meaning an attorney cannot turn around and give information on that case. He is bound to attorney-client privilege. Remember, he was Jeffrey Epstein's attorney in that first case, right? Now the girls, Virginia, she dropped her allegations against him as he maintained his innocence. And she said she may have mistaken him for somebody else. So she dropped her allegations against him. But he wanted those files to be released. And he says, look, these files do exist. I've seen them. I've seen all the names on them, but I can't speak. The fact that he can't say that, and he said that he's saying why, I believe him. Because as an attorney, this is what happened. He represented Jeffrey Epstein. So any of those things and that he represented in that case or has something, he cannot reveal those lists for attorney-client privilege information. This is the same, like, for example, you get gangsters, you get mobsters, you get all these people who get attorneys, right? Their attorneys cannot turn around and reveal information about them because that's what you call attorney-client privilege, right? So regardless of how bad you may think the allegations are or how bad that they want to release it, they are bound legally by attorney-client privilege. Now, people will say, hey, man, morally, you need to let that go. You need to let those names go. You need to let those names go, right? Right? So it doesn't matter if you're alive or not as a client. You have a certain, it's illegal to do that. It's illegal. So the family of Epstein can come after this guy if he was to release that client attorney-client privilege information, right? And different information that he have received as far as being an attorney. Remember, he's an attorney, right? So I believe his story when he said he is bound. Here's the thing. He need to find a way to get a judge to rule against that because morally we need those answers because he knows who's on that list. And he says that not only are powerful political figures, but he said powerful business.
I don't know what you're trying to say, Marshall. Can you retype that?
He said the list, it does exist.
It does exist.
And the list is being suppressed. And there's only one way that we know the list is being suppressed. Because Donald Trump's DOJ now is saying there is no client list. There is nothing else to see. There is no more investigation needed. Let's move forward. So the person he has to be speaking of for suppressing that list is you know who. You know who. Now let's say it again. And I trust him on this. Because why? He wouldn't come out here, put this out here and say he wants that list to be released and say that it's suppressed unless he was telling the truth. I totally believe him. He wouldn't get a whiff of this shit if he thought it was true. And excuse me, to the person who said he's lying about being bound by confidentiality, no, he's not. When you represent, let me give you an example. When you're an attorney and you represent a client, he represents Epstein. So he saw all types of personal files from the government and different information they had from interviews and everything. It is illegal illegal for him to release that information on his client because this has something to do with his client. So any information he's privy to in that case, he cannot come back and say, hey man, I'm gonna convict you because of this just because I'm gonna do what's right. That's why that's how they protect clients with the attorney-client privilege. Right? That's why the attorney-client privilege is so important, because you have bad guys who they may tell their attorney, hey, look, this, and this, but their attorney can't turn around and use that information against them. Right? See, this guy's not going to say this because he's putting his life on the line saying this. Why would he come out and say this knowing now that he's going to be the most smart man in the world? He ain't lying.
Hey, Mrs.
I don't care what you think about him. He ain't lying. He's not lying. He's not lying. He is not lying. I'll tell you that right now. You understand? And he says he knows exactly who's protecting it. And there's one person that can declassify and let all of them go right now. And we know who that is. It's Donald J. Trump. And he's not doing it. For what reason? Hey, you figure it out. Point blank period. Point blank period.
Choosing internet shouldn't be confusing. It should be based on how you live. Whether you're a casual streamer...
There ain't no other way around it. If Donald Trump wanted to, he could declassify, like he said he would do, all those files. He could have Pash Patel declassify all those files and release them all unredacted with all the information. He ain't doing it. Why he ain't doing it? Go ask him. See, over here, you don't get no protection program over here on Ticket TV. You gonna get that smoke. Point blank period. You understand what I'm saying? Let's keep going now.
This is not an opinion. This is a fact. I have seen, remember, I was accused falsely on the Epstein, and ultimately I was completely cleared. The woman admitted that she may have mistook me for somebody else who withdrew all of her lawsuits. And so from day one, from the day I was accused, I said I want every document out because I knew every document would prove I was innocent. So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed. And they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them. But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose
he
what
on that
I know.
list, baby.
But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong.
Just out of curiosity, that name.
Yeah,
are these
he sure better leave.
Both. They're everything.
He better leave that part of Diddy alone.
At least one of them is somebody who was accused. Others are accusers. And the judges have said, if somebody calls themselves a victim, we're not going to give any information about them. But they may not be victims. They may be perpetrators. So we don't have information about false accusers. And we know there have been many false accusers who have accused innocent people for money. And those records are...
Elon, I don't know what type of deal they had getting him elected. What type of deal he done reneged on, and trying to get all smart and fly with Elon. He done exposed Trump. He ain't letting that list go. Oh, you talking about deporting me? You talking about deporting me and my family? Now you threatening me? Oh, okay. And then he okayed him, y'all. Oh, okay. We ain't going nowhere. Then he started singing Diddy song. We ain't going nowhere. Your ass is going to jail. Yeah.
Being deliberately, willfully suppressed. And they shouldn't be suppressed. If the accusation is allowed out, so should the material that diminishes the credibility of the accuser. We want total transparency on this. Every single document, no redaction. That's what I said from day one. I waive any of my rights to privacy. Anything there is about me, I'm happy because it will be exculpatory. because I know I haven't touched a woman other than my wife from the day I met Jeffrey Epstein. I don't even hug people, but I was falsely accused, and I was able to prove it, and I was able to prove it through documents, and I want other people to be able to disprove false accusations through documents, but these documents are being...
See, and the fact that he wants those documents released, the fact that he's speaking on this, the fact that he's being so adamant about this shows me and makes me think he's telling the truth. He has no reason to come out here and lie. Why would he come out here, push for it to be out here and put a target on his back? Because now everybody knows he knows the names.
Oh yeah, he knows the names. So they can
go take him out. How can he cover himself up if he wants all the documents released from the first time?
He said, oh, okay.
If he was trying to protect himself or cover himself, he wouldn't say a word. It'd be nothing to talk about. He'd just be quiet and go sit in the corner somewhere, wouldn't say nothing, and let it all boil over. Nope. I believe him. See, you have to be a great judge of people and judgment of people, and you have to weigh certain situations. Why in the blue hell would this man put his life in danger, come out here and say he knows all those names that are on that list, say there's a list when Donald J. Trump, the DOJ, and the FBI are telling you there ain't no more to see here? Why would he then come out and say, nah, there is more to see? I seen them. It does exist. And I know exactly who's suppressing them and who's hiding them. Why would he say that if he's lying? I believe him. 100% I believe him. He has no reason to come out here and put his life in danger and lie. And I also believe him because he's a lawyer. So when he says that he's bound by attorney-client privileges and by judges' rulings, he's not lying. These are facts. These are facts. He's been in that circle. He was Epstein's lawyer. Listen, it doesn't matter if your client dies or not. You're still bound to that confidentiality. You're still bound to it. Let me give you an example. This is the same thing with the lawyers of any client they had that passed away. Private information inside of that case that wasn't made public is attorney-client privilege information. Doesn't mean that when he dies, you can go tell everybody what's going on. That's not how the law works. That's not how the law works. And you can think whatever you want to think of him. Here's what makes him credible. First of all, he was in that circle. Second of all, he represents Jeffrey Epstein. So he's seen a lot of things that was in that circle. Think about what I just said to y'all.
Yep.
Fourth of all,
he would if he represented him.
He knows who's on that list. That puts a target on this guy. Because if he does know, which he has no reason to lie about knowing, all the names that's on that list, he said he's seen the list, which I believe he was Jeffrey Epstein's attorney. I definitely believe him. 1,000% believe him. 1,000% believe him. And when he says that, man, he knows why those records are being suppressed, when everybody's telling y'all that, nah, there ain't nothing else to see here, and he's telling you, nah, they're suppressing records, and I want them to release all the records. Not me, I want them to release all the records. That's what he says. Regardless of what you think about him, guess who you not hearing say or do that? You ain't hearing the DOJ and the FBI and them saying to do that no more. They out here telling y'all that the records are suppressed. This guy's telling you, no, I saw it. I know who's on the list. Right? Now, here's what I hope. I hope that a certain judge can get a situation where they can rule that if he releases the names he knows, it can't be used against him. I hope that there's a ruling that can be put in place to where, he can reveal that, right? Think about what I just said. Listen, and I want y'all to understand this. He has no reason to come out here right now saying there's a list. He could have just been quiet, sat in the corner somewhere, and let this blow over. Straight up. Straight up. And somebody says why he didn't say that in the past 6 years. That's because wasn't nobody running around here saying it wasn't a list. Sir, now that Donald J. Trump is in office, his whole team is out here saying, oh, no, there ain't no more to see here. Ain't no client list. There ain't no more to see here. Closed investigation. There's nothing else to see here, y'all. Goodbye. Why are we still talking about this guy?
Why are we still talking about it? He want to stop talking about it.
So now that they're saying that, he's saying, nah. They're lying. I'm telling you right now, They need to release all the names.
This is not an opinion. This is a fact. I have seen. Remember, I was accused falsely in the Epstein, and ultimately I was completely cleared. The woman admitted that she may have mistook me for somebody else and withdrew all of her lawsuits. And so from day one, from the day I was accused, I said I want every document out because I knew every document would prove I was innocent. So let me tell you, I know for a fact documents are being suppressed. And they're being suppressed to protect individuals. I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them. But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge and cases, and I can't disclose what I know. But I hand to God, I know the names of people whose files are being suppressed in order to protect them, and that's wrong.
Just out of curiosity, without name, are these politicians, business leaders, both?
They're everything.
Everything. It's over with, y'all.
It may be really over with.
Why everybody call my channel, man, why you don't vote? You need to vote, man. Man, I told y'all this. I don't trust none of them clowns.
I'm still gonna vote though.
I don't trust Kamala Harris. I don't trust Barack Obama. I don't trust Joe Biden. I don't trust none of them. I don't trust George Bush. I don't trust any of them.
Yeah, but somebody gonna get in there that we gotta deal with. So you gotta vote. I ain't gonna listen to that. Cause you still need to vote.
This out loud is to protect himself. So that everybody knows now. If something happens to Alan suddenly, we know what time it is.
Okay,
That's why you go public and you let everybody know.
Jay better stop playing with Elon. Oh yeah, boo.
He has a contingency
He's
plan.
no joke.
How much y'all want to bet? How much you want to bet? He has somebody that we don't know about that's holding on to this information for him in case something happens to him. And that person will probably release all that information. That is to protect him and his family. I totally believe this guy. You don't have to like a person to believe what a person is saying.
I mean, yeah, if it's facts, it's facts.
Has no reason to come out here and lie. Not right now. He could have just jumped on it and not said nothing. Why even put himself in this? He didn't have to say anything. He could have just been quiet. Think about this now.
The facts are facts. Hold on.
Think about what I'm saying to y'all. So you better believe he got something to protect his ass. And he's letting everybody know out loud so everybody can see.
What?
Oh, okay. Now all eyes is on Alan. All eyes.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so let me pause this because y'all not hitting my like button. So
who would know better than him?
Yeah, I'm not going to do this. But I have my girls. I want to hear what my girls say. I normally play them on the back channel late in the midnight hour, but they are funny to me.
To his idiotic former best friend. I am saddened to watch Elon Musk go. Welcome to the United States of America, where the sitting president of the United States happens to be a deranged, demented, convicted felon whom we call Taco Tits, who fights all the time with his idiotic former best friend, the world's richest man and untreated drug addict who trips on ketamine all the time and gets on Twitter at 4 a.m. to put out bangers like this. So here, first of all, is Trump's post to his idiotic former best friend.
Oh my God.
I am saddened to watch Elon Musk go completely off the rails, essentially becoming a train wreck over the past 5 weeks. He even wants to start a third political party, despite the fact that they have never succeeded in the United States. The system seems not designed for them. The one thing third parties are good for is the creation of complete and total disruption and chaos, and we have enough of that with the radical left Democrats who have lost their confidence and their minds. Republicans, on the other hand, are a smooth running machine that just passed the biggest bill of its kind in the history of our country. It is a great bill, but unfortunately for Elon, it eliminates the ridiculous electric vehicle mandate, which would have forced everyone to buy an electric car in a short period of time. I've been strongly opposed to that from the very beginning. People are now allowed to buy whatever they want, gasoline-powered hybrids, which are doing very well, or technologies as they come about. No more EV mandate. I've campaigned on this for 2 years, and quite honestly,
he
when
backed
Elon
out
gave
on
me
a
his
deal
total
with
and unquestioned
Elon.
endorsement, I asked him whether or not he knew that I was going to terminate the EV mandate. It was in every speech I made, in every conversation I had. He said he had no problem with that. I was very surprised.
Yeah.
Additionally,
So
Elon asked that one of his close friends run
makes
NASA.
sense.
And while I thought his friend was very good, I was surprised to learn that he was a blue-blooded Democrat who had never contributed to the Republican Party before.
Look at you. You're doing everything you can.
We see how they fell out.
And now you have Super Beats Heart Chews by Human on your...
Contributed to the Republican Party before. Elon probably was also. I also thought it inappropriate that a very close friend of Elon, who was in the space business, run NASA, when NASA is such a big part of Elon's corporate life. My number one charge is to protect the American public. Okay, so much to unpack here. Number one, he's basically trying to signal to his base that Elon is a Democrat and was going into Trump to
what they call it, gaslighting, green light, gaslighting.
Get him to put this EV mandate in the bill. And I do think that Trump, a broken clock is right twice a day. So I do think that there is some truth to this. Elon doesn't give a shit about the deficit. He used all of that to come in to shut down investigations into himself, which we've discussed ad nauseum. But this part right here I find particularly rich, that Trump felt it inappropriate that a close friend of Elon's work in NASA, that somehow we're supposed to buy into that this guy has, like a transparent moral outlook on how to govern.
Well, okay, let me tell you what I saw when I read this. I thought he may have been around when this doesn't look like something Donald Trump wrote. This is way too nuanced. It's not as gruff as normal. What he's trying to get at is
it really didn't sound like him.
He wants everybody to be a skunk. But here's the thing about
have
Trump.
The right sarcasm.
And I know we say this all the time, but he's like, somebody can't run NASA that's never donated to Republican Party. It's like, you can't just be good at your job. You have to be a Republican.
You have to be a partisan.
Loyalist.
You have to be a partisan. You have to. He wants partisan politics. And the second Elon decided not to be partisan anymore, which is all of Elon's stuff is all for personal gain. It has nothing to do with this country. It's going to be a layup for MAGA to take out Elon Musk.
Yes.
Because at their core, they are white supremacists, and in that is American supremacists. It's very easy to dismantle Elon Musk as a corporate welfare queen that got rich off the United States government, and it's going to be so easy to pitch because he's South African and he has an accent, and Americans are ethnocentric first and foremost. All right, secondly, all of this kind of combines together here. Here's an Axios headline. President Trump's Justice Department and FBI have concluded they have no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful figures, kept a client list, or was murdered, according to a memo detailing the findings obtained by Axios. Interestingly, let's listen to Pam Bondi, Trump's Justice Department. So I just want to point out, no evidence of a client list. All right, here's Pam Bondi in February on Fox. Play the clip.
DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all.
All right, there we go. So basically here in February, she says that something exists, the client list. It's sitting on her desk and she's going to review it. Now we have her own Justice Department in July dropped on a Sunday night, because we all know the government's always working late on a Sunday night, saying that the client list doesn't exist. The fact of the matter is, MAGA, Trump is all over the Epstein files. And you can go back to, there was I think the last name is Acosta. He was a U.S. attorney in Florida who got Jeffrey Epstein a super duper sweet deal that got him out of prison. He went back and committed tons of more crimes against these young girls. And then
this guy who helped cover up all the Epstein stuff gets a appointment in Trump 1.0. So the collusion to cover up the Epstein thing has been going on for quite some time. But don't take my word for it. Let's listen to Jeffrey Epstein being recorded here by journalist Michael Wolff about the Trump administration 1.0. This is Jeffrey Epstein saying this.
I think we have a snippet from one of the conversations that I recorded with Epstein, and I think this was in a restaurant in 2017.
His people fight each other. Right. And then have outsiders. He sort of poisons the well outside. He will tell 10 people Bannon's a scumbag and Priest is not doing a good job and Kelly has a big mouth. What do you think? Jamie Dimon says you're a problem. I shouldn't keep you. And I spoke to Carl Icahn, and Carl thinks I need a new spokesperson. So Kelly, even though I hired Kellyanne's husband, Kellyanne's just too much of a wild one.
Okay, so the gist of this is that Jeffrey Epstein has insider information about the going on in Trump 1.0. And he's heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Trump says this about Kelly, and he says this about Steve Bannon, and he says that. And he plays everybody against each other because he has insider information because they're buddies. So to believe that Epstein, the client list, or that Donald Trump is nowhere in this, we've seen the photos, we've seen all of it. I guess I'm just mystified, Pumps, by, I know what I've seen on the internet.
Yeah, right.
That somehow there's a huge portion of the MAGA movement that is, I guess they don't have access to, or they haven't seen, that doesn't understand that Trump is at the epicenter of all this Epstein stuff. Well, obviously, okay, I did have a conversation with a friend when they were talking about Epstein files being released. And I said, there is no way any of the Epstein files will be released because Donald Trump is all over them. And this is an educated person. She goes, well, how do you know that? I said, because they were introduced as evidence in Ghislaine Maxwell's trial, who was Jeffrey Epstein's right-hand man. We have flight logs. We have phone messages where he's called. That is all readily available on the internet. And that was a surprise. So I think they stay in these echo chambers that say that doesn't exist. Which brings me to the point of Pam Bondi's on Fox. We're going to release them. We're going to release them. You've got all these people saying, release the Epstein files. And now they don't have them. Are they now going to do their own investigation, which would just be a slight Google search, and all this would come out? All right. And this is the way it's being reported on the right. Does the Musk party, and this is back to Elon Musk and his new American party, does the Musk party have a chance in the U.S. two-party system? That is a right-leaning headline. On the left, it's presented like this. Seething over tax bill, Musk forms his own party. And this goes to what Angie was talking about. If you're in a right-wing silo, you never see the truth. And studies have even shown that people who only watch Fox News are actually less informed than people who don't watch the news at all, which is why we believe we have agency. We believe in being a good citizen and getting the facts, which is why every single morning in preparation for these podcasts, we use our Ground News Vantage Plan. What is so helpful about Ground News is they tell you, is the article you are reading factual? Is it low factuality, high factuality, in the middle? They tell you who writes it. They tell you who owns the site that's writing it. It is extremely important to know that you are getting real information. Listener, join us by going to groundnews.com/IHIP to get 40% off the Ground News Vantage Plan that we use every day. They're subscriber funded, and our favorite part is that they are female founded. By subscribing, you're not only getting a tool we all need today, you're also supporting our work. That's Ground, GROUND, news.com/IHIP. Link is pinned right below. There's over to the White House, and they got their participation notebooks. Yes. With all the Epstein evidence. Mm-hmm. That was a play to keep everybody in the cult media echo chamber engaged. And now they've just shut the entire thing down. And I'm wondering, like you said, what percentage of the MAGA base who, like QAnon, who are real into all this stuff, what percentage starts to actually question Donald Trump's integrity, or do they just get spin onto some new conspiracy?
They should have been.
I think they probably spin out to another conspiracy. But when I see Elon Musk mocking Pam Bondi, the first question that comes to my mind is, Pam Bondi declared a property crime on Tesla as domestic terrorism. And so now he's making her out to be a clown because she's the one that said all these things. Are we going to no longer live under the threat of vandalizing a Tesla as domestic terrorism? Well, of course not. I mean, of course. And, you know, of course she's not going to do that. Pam Bondi is a puppet, yes, for Stephen Miller. She gets instructions about what to go out and say. She has no autonomy over DOJ, zero. There is zero independence in the Department of Justice. It is Trump's personal team of lawyers that are executing cases and investigations based on his preference. And, I have a son that's starting law school in August. I'm wondering, what are they going to teach now at law school? Do you teach due process? What do you teach? All right. And lastly, we have Trump's top advisor, Laura Loomer, who's going to be going through some things. Who releases a statement about the Epstein files on Sunday night, 4th of July weekend? Someone who doesn't want you paying attention. Okay, my question on this is,
it's the stackable savings sale at Cabinets to Go.
Come in today for cabinets, countertops, accessories, installation, and
July weekend. Someone who doesn't want you paying attention. Okay, my question on this is, how did Laura Loomer not know that Trump's all over this shit? She's on the internet. She thought Haitians were eating dogs and cats, Angie. Okay, well, fair. Touche. I mean, you know what I mean? She is a complete conspiracy theorist. And these people traffic in these outlandish conspiracy theorists. She is a white supremacist. She is a racist. She is, clearly something's going on with her and Trump. And I don't know if it's sexual or what it is, but the fact that she can make a phone call and go to the White House and get people fired and stir shit up is just insane. Could you imagine if Obama had some fringe progressive podcaster that showed up to the White House, and right after this podcaster left, people were fired that had serious jobs based on a whack job conspiracy theorist? It's insane. But again, the normalization of all of this is the most dangerous aspect to it. And the fact that you do not see more.
Hold on. Oh, you was listening. Okay. I was finna go.
Or people in large numbers have regret and remorse about voting for Trump is devastating to what's going to happen in a post-Trump America. And the fact that when I see the Republican approval rating of Donald Trump, just the Republican Party, is in the mid-60s, it tells you that they finally feel untethered to the civilized society, that they need to work on their racism, that they need to try to be better people, that he's completely untethered them and they're enjoying this moment. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the post-Trump America, because Trump right now, and he's like, okay, we just have a time game with him. His term is either going to expire or he's going to drop dead. We're dealing with an 80-year-old that clearly is in advanced dementia.
Oh, thank you,
so
Vicky.
it's going to be interesting with this base, because they are so rabid. They are so evil. They are so racist. It's going to be interesting to see how if they're able to consolidate under another leader, because they clearly take orders from this man as to what to believe and what not to believe. And they'll put out some spin that satisfies all this Jeffrey Epstein, that blames the liberals on it, or that he's doing Bill Clinton a favor or something. It's going to be something like this. All right, this is just embarrassing. We're signing out embarrassed in the middle of the United States of America. This is our federal government. It's just devastating, actually. All right, we'll see you all later.
Okay. I love these. Y'all listen, I love them, but hold on. I love them when they go in on taco tits. But I need to listen to Before I go, I'm gonna be on the back. The list was a lot. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. I will have the backup channel rolling tonight. Now I won't be communicating on it, but I will have some of this political. It will be on. I'm gonna tell you that now. But okay, let me find Lemon. But I promise you, it's gonna catch me sleep. But I will have the goings on rolling. Believe that, cause there's a lot going on, y'all. Hold on. There's a lot going on. And you know, y'all know I don't believe in all these coincidences like this. And yeah, just too many of them. That's 6 hours ago. But you got, oh, here it go. Yeah. Oh yeah, he got totally busted. Now he on his way to Texas. He said, I think it's time for me to go to Texas, y'all.
Idiots. That's why I've been wanting to speak on this. Okay, and so here's the breaking news as it relates to Jeffrey Epstein.
Link the other channel. It's pinned at the top.
Allegedly, Donald Trump, this is a Daily Beast. Trump held talks on pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. That's according to a biographer. You know, biographer is Michael Wolff. Let's just look at let's just peruse this just for a little bit, okay? And there is Joanna Coles over there. President, now if there's some sound, check it out, Peter. Maybe there's some sound that we can play from the Joanna Coles interview. I would like to hear it. President Donald Trump waived pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell for fear that she would spill secrets about his decade-long friendship with convicted child, you know what, offender Jeffrey Epstein.
I thought he didn't know him. Oh, well, yeah, he said he's known him.
I mean, again.
Hold on. I'm gonna drop it.
Just saying.
Come on, Don. Spill the tea,
baby. None of it makes sense. Okay, none of it. Absolutely none of it makes sense. After Maxwell, who's 63, was arrested by the FBI in July of 2020 for allegedly helping Epstein run his trafficking ring operation, luring and grooming young girls into a web of abuse, Trump grew very wary and began asking, what could she say? What would she say? That's what Michael Wolff said on the Daily Beast podcast. Let me know when you get that, because I know but I want to hear him saying it. Trump and Epstein had been friends since the 1980s. Wolff described them as two guys joined at the hip for 15 years.
Feed someone for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be the answer to a mother's dua. Humanity is on the ground. Gaza, Syria, Yemen, Pakistan, Africa, and more, delivering hot, fresh meals with dignity. Donate now. Give with humanity.
Grade 12 has helped a lot with my ADHD because I'm in an area where I feel like I'm getting distracted or dozing off somewhere. I can just move and just work somewhere else. And I can have my mom help me, or I can give myself a brain break.
I'm sorry.
Described them as two guys joined at the hip for 15 years.
Two guys joined at the hip.
There they are. And MAGA seems to somehow, they don't see that. It's like, oh, look, oh my God. When they look at this picture, you know what they say? Look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Bill and Hillary Clinton. That's what they see. Or they say, look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Joe and Jill Biden. Or they say, look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Barack and Michelle Obama.
That is not DT. DT, are you with me?
That's what they say. But somehow they're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a Democrat thing, and he just didn't do it himself. So the question is, if you think that Jeffrey Epstein is the thing that they say, you know, they always say Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, right? That's what they always say. So if he didn't, and it was under Trump's administration, then who did it?
Yeah, because I just had somebody say it was under Biden. Quit lying. Let's go. Let's rewind.
It be Joe Biden, because Joe Biden wasn't even president yet.
DT, are you with me?
Epstein run his trafficking ring operation.
Absolutely.
Luring and grooming young girls into a web of abuse. Trump grew very wary and began asking, what could she say? What would she say?
Now, you know he in Florida too, right? How far is
Let me know when you get that.
Mar-a-Lago from Star Island?
Trump and Epstein had been friends since the 1980s. Wolf described them as two guys joined at the hip for 15 years.
For 15 years.
Okay. There they are.
DT, are you with me? Oh, yeah.
Somehow they don't see that. It's
We
like,
screwing girls ain't going nowhere.
When they look at this picture, you know what they say? Look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Bill and Hillary Clinton. That's what they see. Or they say, look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with...
For 15 years. DT, are you with me? Oh, yeah. Not far. Uh-huh. So you don't know who named that guy? He's been gone for years. I mean, there's no list. But you said it was. It came out your mouth. Your mouth, not your. Your mouth. Epstein spirit saying, DT, are you with me? And guess what? They got pictures of him and Diddy just like that. Huh? Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, dang, I hit the wrong button.
Co-host of the Pivot podcast, Kara Swisher. Kara.
Dang it. Oh, that's a good one, too. I like him, too.
Or they say, look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Barack and Michelle Obama.
Wow.
That's what they say. But somehow they're like, okay, yeah, it's a Democrat.
Okay, so let me see some, y'all. Hold on. Pause.
So the question.
Pause. Hold on before I forget. Let's go back just a little bit because I'm going to see if any of those pictures let me see.
Just saying here.
Did he have that on when he was hanging with
none of
Diddy?
it makes sense. Okay, none of it. Absolutely none of it makes sense. After Maxwell, who's 63, was arrested by the FBI in July of 2020 for allegedly helping Epstein run his trafficking ring operation.
His enterprise.
His enterprise. Girls into a web
Can somebody put
Trump
enterprise for me?
Began asking.
Help him run his enterprise.
What would she say? That's what Michael Wolff said on the Daily Beast podcast. Let me know when you get that, because I know but I want to hear him saying it. Trump and Epstein had been friends since the 1980s. Wolff described them as two guys joined at the hip for 15 years.
See that guy standing while everyone else is kneeling? That's Jonathan Isaac.
I ain't mad at him.
Described them as two guys joined at the hip for 15 years. Okay. There they are.
Thank you.
MAGA seems to somehow, they don't see that. It's like, oh, look, oh my God. When they look at this picture, you know what they say? Look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Bill and Hillary Clinton. That's what they see. Or they say, look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Joe and Jill Biden. Or they say, look at Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with Barack and Michelle Obama. That's what they say. But somehow they're like, okay, yeah, it's a Democrat thing, and he just didn't do it himself. So the question is,
wait till we get to 11:37.
Thing that they say, you know, they always say Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself, right? That's what they always say. So if he didn't, and it was under Trump's administration, then who did it? Who would have the power to do all that? Certainly wouldn't be Joe Biden, because Joe Biden wasn't even president yet. Didn't even know he was going to be elected. It makes no sense,
hold
but somehow
on.
it makes sense to
you know what?
Brained
hold on.
idiots.
When we get to 12:21,
it somehow makes sense.
When we get to 12:21,
I don't know. I don't get it.
When we get to 12, when they at a party and they, I want y'all to remember this pink tie
with Michael
with Diddy.
No, we don't. Okay.
This one. Can y'all see this up here?
Let me just show you. This is what I'm saying. So when I told you when they look at that picture, that's what they see. Is this? But
can y'all hear me?
Also, this video.
Can y'all still hear me?
Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein just, hanging out buddies. When they look at that, oh my God.
What?
Oh my God. Look. Look at Joe Biden with Jeffrey Epstein, y'all.
Hold on. Is that the same party with Diddy? Is this? So they partying with Diddy. Baby. They gonna stop playing with AunTeaFee, ain't they? They gonna stop playing with AunTeaFee.
Look, it's Bill Clinton. Oh my God, it is Barack Obama with Jeffrey Epstein. Look at him.
He getting his freak on, ain't he?
I cannot believe that there's
Diddy at this party, y'all.
It is Adam Schiff. Look at Adam Schiff dancing with them.
I gotta take the background now.
I cannot believe this. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
Oh, was that a minor?
Wait a minute.
She sure look.
I'm wearing the wrong glasses.
What? What?
Oh, that. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I had on my MAGA glasses. And my MAGA glasses led me to believe that the man in this video and in the pictures, the couple, that it was a Democrat. Oh my God, no, it's Donald Trump.
Is he
As
trying to
soon as you take
dance?
the MAGA glasses off, you realize that it's Donald Trump, who has been friends and friendly for decades.
Baby.
With who? Jeffrey.
Baby.
Epstein.
He said they was thick at the
Jeffrey Epstein told Michael Wolff, or told someone at least a while ago, that they were Donald Trump was his best friend.
For about 15 years.
Donald Trump was his best friend. That's what he said. Now, I don't know, why isn't MAGA getting all been out of shape about that one? I don't get it.
Because that's not him.
Why aren't they all bent out of shape? Stand by.
Oh.
About that.
Oh. So is this when he was grabbing coochies?
Okay.
This is back in the time when he was grabbing. Oh, look at him.
The Daily Beast podcast.
He getting his.
Andy.
See, it's on the website, but you won't be able to hear this.
She look young.
Just download it.
There's no sound. Okay, well, let's show some other stuff. All right.
Wow.
Trump and Epstein partying. This was decades.
They go way back, yeah.
Let me just tell you. And so now, Donald Trump is being asked about this. They're asking him, hey, what happened when you're supposed to release all of these files? And then I'm going to get to what, more of how I feel.
There's no list.
Falling a little bit until Andy gets that.
There's no list.
So Donald Trump was asked about a reporter, oh my gosh, people are freaking out about this Epstein thing. What are you going to do about it? And then, Donald Trump, he's always like, what? And when someone asks him about
that David guy, he was crazy. He was this. He was weird. He this, that, and the other. Best friend for 15 years.
Even when people would get in trouble in his administration, they would go to jail, all of those things. I've never met the person. What are you talking about? Michael Flynn? I don't know him. I have never met him. And then he ends up pardoning them, but he doesn't know who they are. I don't know. Never seen him. What?
I had something about
that. I know nothing about Project 2025. I've never heard about Project 2025. That is a lie. Don't know the man. Oh, I'm sorry. Project 20. I don't know Project 2025. I have no idea. No earthly idea. I don't know.
Oh, he was choosing, wasn't it?
Asked by a reporter.
He was choosing, wasn't it?
Wait, what happened to the Epstein files? And why is Ghislaine Maxwell?
Oh yeah, that's when he said, "What guy?"
A client list.
Are we still talking about?
There's nothing
that guy.
There. There's no evidence to put her in jail or convict her of anything. Why is she there? It is nothing. Now, before he said it talks about wanting to pardon her. Oh, interesting. That
he was gonna pardon. Where is that at? About he was gonna pardon Epstein.
He knew that they were going to do something, maybe get rid of the evidence, allegedly, reportedly.
Yeah, that was the whole plan, was to get rid of it.
He allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the news?
Yeah, sure. If
Could I just interrupt for a second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all these things.
Oh, my juice is almost out.
And are people
Hold on,
talking
y'all.
about this guy, this creep?
Oh, he a creep now.
Unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
He does not want her to answer that, does he?
So all of a sudden, nothing there.
That creep. Oh, now you're creep.
Something is...
You was creeping your ass to them parties.
And whatever they call it.
You was creeping your ass to the party. I wouldn't got the light for you, boo.
I know that there's...
Are you still talking about Jeffrey?
Theories, but when I'm sitting here thinking about why all of this is taking place the way it is, all of a sudden there were people freaking out about this Epstein thing. What are you going to do about it? And then, Donald Trump, he's always like, what? And when someone asks him about, like, David...
Look at him. He all up on her. Yeah, I want her. Look at her tit. Look at the ass on her. Oh, look at her print. I'm going to go and grab it.
Even when people would get in trouble in his administration, they would go to jail, all of those things. I've never met the person. What are you talking about? Michael Flynn? I don't know him. I have never met him. And then he ends up like...
Hey, Tracy.
Pardoning them. But he doesn't know.
At Trump at his prime.
I don't know. Never seen him. I don't know.
Part one of a freak.
Project 2025. I've never heard about Project 2025. That is a lie. Don't know the man.
He in there choosing.
Project 20.
Choosing. Watch him grab her around her low waist. Yeah. You with me. You and freak off number one. Y'all hit the like button, please.
Project 20. I don't know Project 2025.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Here's Donald Trump.
Look at him. He in there choosing his ass off on the freak out.
Epstein files. And why is Ghislaine Maxwell?
Look, here you go again.
In jail.
He does not want to talk about it. You done already screwed up.
If there's no evidence,
you done already screwed up. Said it's on your desk.
It is nothing.
And now they coming at you again. Do you mind if I let me get them up off you? Is what he was saying, y'all.
Interesting, that coincidence. Now he wanted to pardon her because maybe.
Oh my goodness!
He knew that they were going to do something. Maybe
do you want to answer this? White nail polish. White nail polish and that pink tie, baby.
He allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the news?
Yeah, sure.
Could I just interrupt for a second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things.
The gaslight.
And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
Oh, he's a creep.
Unbelievable.
Do you want to waste the time? Do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy. With
our president is a player. Can't trust him.
Like a desecration. But
shit. He played with minors.
So all of a sudden, nothing there.
Nothing there. He said, "Oh, they don't realize that the tape done been altered."
And
oh shit, it's getting hot in here. I'm about to pass out. They showed where he had a bowel movement in his pants on the golf course. He shitted on himself
conspiracy theories
in that diaper.
I don't like to get into conspiracy theories,
right there,
that thinking about why all of this is taking place the way it is. All of a sudden, they're
ran all down his leg.
Laura Loomer and others like, oh, we have Epstein files. Nothing. Produced.
We had bowels, all right, in that diaper.
Oh, we have this, we have that. Produced nothing. Do we have Pam Bondi on Fox News talking about they're going to release all of the things on Epstein?
Wow.
Nope. Don't have it.
Sorry, I was muted. It'll take me 1 second, but I'll get it.
Okay. Let's get Pam Bondi on the Fox News.
Yep.
Please.
All of a sudden, dirty diaper. Woo, baby. Huh?
Joe don't have it?
Not yet, sorry. It's taking me a second.
Okay. While we wait for Pam Bondi on Fox News, I want to play Dan Bongino talking about, first let me show you Dan Bongino then and now. All right. Dan Bongino had a really successful right-wing podcast where he could just talk, make up conspiracy theories, and rely on his history as a former FBI agent or whatever he was, Secret Service or whatever. And so he said, "Oh, I know these things," right? Pretend he knew everything, and so he could just spout off untruth, lies, all the time. It was easy for him to do it. Something happened. Jeffrey Epstein, they should do it. Something is fishy there, and they need to release it. Now, I want you to see the difference between him in 2023 and then once he sat in that seat, and perhaps who knows what happened behind the scenes and what they actually found out. And then they got to come out and talk and say the real thing. They can't lie, because if they lie, I guess he might pardon them, but they, might be subject to some sort of prosecution. Here it is.
Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. Catherine Rumler, we need to keep the heat on this case, folks. There are a lot of people who are knee deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it. Outside of a few entrepreneurial media outlets saying, hey, this is a big deal.
He killed himself. Again, you want me to get... I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Oh my gosh, you gotta love it. I mean, come on. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Pam Bondi on the Fox News. Here it is.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. I'm reviewing JFK files, MLK files. That's all in the process of being reviewed because that was done at the directive of the president from all of these agencies.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll check back with you.
I wish we had her before. There's a clip of her before that I've seen where she's like, we're going to release it. We're finding all this information. Not only that, we want to know about JFK, and we also want to know about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There's so much juicy information. And then she's like, I haven't seen anything. Why haven't they seen anything? Why can't they just come out and say, either Donald Trump's in there a lot, we've decided not to release it.
Why don't you just say, I lied to win the election?
Does that not seem fishy to you guys?
You tried to make it seem like everybody was corrupt except
so that was, you saw Dan
and
Bongino
I
back in the day
exaggerated.
when he was on his podcast, when he could talk shit, when he didn't have to rely on facts, when he could just, didn't just like and rile people up to get the clicks up to make that money. Dan Bongino.
I trust God. Ain't that what you say, Pressure?
Patel saying, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. Here it is.
It was when he asked about, hold on, when he said there's an hour and 20-something minutes missing. But he said, hold it. Oh, man, they done figured that shit out. Why are you talking about this? When he asked about that missing minutes in that jail, that was a rap, boo.
Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it. Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked...
Oh, he got them ratchet eyes. His eyes done got big.
In that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
Well, what is that?
He killed himself.
What is it?
Again, you want me to get... I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
What does it look like?
Did they not look like they wanted to cry?
His eyes got big, and somebody said, I know one when I see one. What?
I've seen it. I've seen it. Oh, he killed himself. It pains them to say it, or they look like it's a hostage video.
Oh, wow. Baby.
Now here is Dan Bongino again being asked about.
The exposure is real.
What they're saying. Here you go.
They own their asses about that list.
You know what, Maria?
He can't breathe. It took his breath away.
Through hers or Thornton's, lost 30 pounds.
You know what, Maria? Cash is not kidding. We've been personally briefed extensively on every single detail, nugget, tendril of this case. One is actively in court right now, so out of respect for the case, it's probably more appropriate that I stay quiet on that. However, I'm not going to tell people what they want to hear. I'm going to tell you the truth.
No, you're going to lie.
Whether you like it or not is up to you. If there was a big explosive there, right? Given my history as a Secret Service agent and my personal friendship as a director does with the president, give me one logical, sensible reason we would not have. If you can think of one, there isn't. In some of these cases, the there you're looking for is not there.
And they came back.
I get it. I understand. It's not there.
They are shitting on themselves.
Would have told you.
Why would I? Why would I?
So he's addressing the shooting, right? The Trump thing. I believe it's in Butler, Pennsylvania, right?
Oh, they got fired.
And also.
They got fired. 6 of them got fired.
That interview came out before this latest round of we don't know what happened. We don't know what's going on. That interview was before, and I was like, something looks fishy about that interview. Something's up with that interview. What's going on with that interview? And I just laughed. I was like, that looks like a hostage video.
Oh, wow.
Based on everything I've learned and heard about Jeffrey Epstein.
He is so busted.
So, they have these Trump stands, these Trump glazers, these folks who have been like Dan Bongino. They don't have to rely on facts. It doesn't matter to them. It's feelings. It's conspiracy theories. It's clicks. It's, I want my podcast to rank higher. I want whatever it is, my radio show to rank higher. So they can come up with all of these conspiracy theories, and which is when I went around during the election talking to all of these young college guys, mostly white guys,
and they were listening to all these podcasts, they would be saying the same thing. Something's up with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself. Oh, it's all about Bill Clinton. It's all about this. It's all about that.
What about that
Nothing about
minute?
Donald Trump. Because they were listening to these guys. And as it turns out, now these guys are like, oh shit, I built a whole narrative on this so that I could dupe people into watching my show because there's some conspiracy to it. And now there's nothing there. And even the Trump stands, the Trump glazers, the Trump dick riders are admitting now, wait, what's going on? Something's weird here. I don't know what's happening with the administration. This is not as advertised. This is becoming like Pizzagate. Here it is. This guy, what's his name? Andrew Schultz and whatever this podcast. I think it's called Flagrant. There it is. Here you go.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? We have Texas. We have this. We have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
So we're stupid. Yeah. we're the fucking idiots, guys. That is, I think, what is enraging people right now is it's insulting our intelligence. Like, obviously the intelligence community is trying to cover it up. Obviously the Trump administration is trying to cover up. Something changed because they ran on this idea of exposing it all. All these guys had great ideas. Cockeyed Cash, Dan Bongino.
He had clips, dog. He had bars.
He was ready to tear it all down. He was ready to tear down the entire FBI office.
Shut down the Hoover building day one.
Day one.
That bitch still standing.
And then he goes on Joe Rogan and he's like, listen, do you think if I had it, I wouldn't share it with you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
I do believe that 100%. Especially when you're staring at me like this, telling me that. Once you protect pedophiles, you are the most cockeyed person in the world.
So one of two things, in my mind, is it possible. One, you're covering it up. Or two, nothing really happened and you exploited the rape of thousands of children to get your man elected. So which one do you want here?
Okay, and these are the very guys who were promoting Donald Trump during the election. Based on somewhat on, and they're not the only ones, based somewhat on this bullshit like this. So either you're in there a lot, that guy's right, or nothing happened. Either way, it's bad for you. Either way, what does it do? It erases your whole narrative about the Democrats, about somebody's hiding something, that a Democrat somehow offed Epstein because they didn't want it, because of the conspiracy theory, and there were so many people, famous people, and they wanted to off Epstein because he had all of this information that was going to come out. Or Donald Trump is in there, and maybe he's implicated. Now, I'm just saying that's the only those are two of the reasons that perhaps you're saying what you're saying. Could be nothing's in there, or it could be like, oh, they could be covering for Donald Trump. And that's what reportedly, allegedly, the Daily Beast is reporting. And that is why they're saying Donald Trump wanted to, pardon, or had meetings about pardoning Ghislaine Maxwell.
I can't help it if I'm popping, see them watch like it's outrageous how this flavor got them shook like you can't blame me, bring me in, I'll try and take it.
Ghislaine Maxwell.
And he is okay with her taking the blame by herself.
Did not just fall off the cabbage truck yesterday.
I ain't neither, Don.
Or as one of the gay comedians, or one of the comedians playing a gay man said on, I forget what the show was, it's out of Canada, I may have been born yesterday, but I still went shopping.
What?
Come on, y'all. They think y'all are stupid. You know why they think you're stupid? Because you are stupid. Because you fell for it. You fall for it. And all of these...
Right, they ain't gonna let us know.
Sorry to the people who are dealing with the issues, with the floods and all of that. Sorry to the people who are having their services taken away. Sorry to that. But then now they're realizing, Maybe I've been lied to. Oh, Kamala Harris was told us this all along, but we said that she was a liar and that she was not qualified.
Yep. But Donald, what's his name? Donald Trump
what
is.
you paid for, literally. You get what you paid for. Because you paid his legal bills, the donations, the money, reportedly first went to his legal bills and then it went to the campaign. So you get what you paid for.
And one of those
how many hundreds of millions of dollars did Elon Musk give Donald Trump? And then they're now fighting.
Supreme Court say he got to pay that. He is not exempt.
How much money did little old ladies who are living on a fixed income donate to Donald Trump because they believed in him? You get what you paid for.
Some of them people that's been deported.
How many people who are the retirement and guys who are like, yeah, but that Trump, I just love him. The dudes, the guys who work in construction and do whatever, and they're hard on money, and then now you get
some of these sorry ass YouTubers.
Tax on tips is not exactly what you thought. It's all a lie.
I mean, I ain't mad. I mean, I like Donald Trump. I mean, he. Oh, okay.
I want to hear from the legends about this a little bit, and then maybe we will be.
How your elderly parents feeling now? Right about now?
Wolf. I'm not sure. Let's try to figure it out. I'd love to get him up there to hear it. Okay, so let's take a break, and I want to tell you, and we're going to get back to this. We're not done. The legend. I'm interested to hear what the legends are going to say about this. Support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from Beam. Summer's here. That doesn't mean that you can slow down and take a break. The news cycle is relentless. Folks are trying to pull the wool over your eyes every single day. There's served new outrage designed to overwhelm you and take you out of the fight. That is the right trying to scare you or get you to believe in bullshit and conspiracy theories. That's why I turn to Beam's Dream Powder so that I can be rested and I can keep up the fight. A natural sleep blend designed to help you get the deepest rest your body and mind need to stay in the fight.
You better sit your ass down.
Okay? Because here's the truth. You can't sustain the fight without rest.
Yeah, funny.
Burnout serves the people in power who love nothing more than to see you exhausted and to see you checked out. All natural ingredients, including melatonin, L-theanine, apigenin, those things, whatever they are. It helps you fall asleep, it helps you stay asleep, and it helps you wake up ready to organize, resist, and raise hell without the fog or the crash. Now remember, I had jet lag. I took it last night. The nutrients in the omega-3s.
I love omega-3.
Well, yeah, it's obviously fishy, but we don't know for sure.
With what I just said. And sorry, look, I wanted to, some of the things that didn't come up, not a big deal for what I want to talk about. I wanted to hear Michael Wolff because I can't believe I would hear it out of his own mouth. Okay, so here's the deal. You guys understand what I'm saying here about it just sounds like bullshit. It's giving bullshit. It's giving bullshit.
Big bullshit. Big bullshit.
Bueller.
I'll go first, Don.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, I am really happy to see you back and happy. And secondly, now you know everything they saying is a lie. And the reason the Republican men are supporting Donald Trump is because they were all at the party.
Nah, his name is Donnie. Dondra.
They
was all there.
They all were there, and that's why he gonna pardon Diddy.
See there?
He was at Diddy's next. Okay.
He was there.
Okay, you know that's not there. He's not accused of that.
In the party, all of them.
So you think that there are other people involved that they're trying? Basically, you're saying they're trying to cover up for? Is that what you're saying?
I think the list is very long.
Yeah. Now listen, look. This is your personal opinion, but why do you think the list is very long? Do you think by thinking this way that you're becoming a conspiracy theorist like the other side, or no?
I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist. What I really think is that men have needs that they want met, and they love young women. And that one video that you showed, if you would have played it longer, Donald even grabbed her butt. And it's a lot of people. He told you, and the people that he associates with like those kind of parties, and he knows everybody's secrets. Those people are falling in line because he knows all of their secrets and their wives can't know. And when he called, what's his name, wife ugly, he still smiled. Ted Cruz. When he called Ted Cruz wife ugly, he said, okay.
All right. Kim Page, what say you? What do you think is going on with this? Because I think it's fishy.
Well, yeah, it's obviously fishy, but we don't know for sure. My question has always been, why didn't Biden's DOJ pick this up? Why didn't they do more with it? Mm-hmm. That is my question. We all know that Trump was involved somehow. I don't know the extent, so I'm not going to accuse, but it is very fishy. And I think sometimes people on the outside, they think they know, and then they get in there and they see the reality, and it's, oh shit. Yeah,
Biden didn't come in saying that he was going to expose it.
My other question is, I wonder if Elon has the file.
He done seen it, probably.
He had access to a lot of data.
Yeah.
So
well, when I say something is fishy, meaning the way that they are handling this, right? The whole process. I don't know if they were there. Trump was there. I have no idea. But something is.
Oh, he was there. He just showed it to
Shannon.
Right in Denmark, right?
Yeah, something. Yeah, in Denmark. So, Shannon, what say you?
I like what Kim said about Elon, because he was digging. And Donald Trump has got to be so arrogant to think that he can go at him like that and not think that at some point he's going to plop these files and plop these things about
he may not have known that Epstein was recording everything.
But this is my question, and this is for everybody and for you, Don. So say these files are released. What's going to come of it? Is anybody going to be prosecuted? I mean, what's going to happen if these files
they was with minors?
We know that Trump is in those files. We know that. But what's going to happen? He's not going to be prosecuted for it. So what's the point? We know he's in there. It's just going to be who else was on the list.
Do we really know that he's in there? Well, yeah, we do. We see the names on there, right? The names are, Go on.
Yeah.
D something?
No, that's it. If there's not going to be a prosecution, I still want to know what's the point of these files. If nobody's going to be prosecuted, if nobody's going to be held accountable, and even if they could, hasn't the statute of limitations run out for any of the women to come forward and say such and such happened to me? Hasn't the statute of limitations run out?
Not for trafficking.
Okay.
Nope.
Other than embarrassing Trump.
Well, I mean, the statute of limitations has not run out, and this is because Ghislaine Maxwell is she's in jail.
Right.
Go ahead, May Money.
So there was a question that you asked, or you said, it's giving bullshit. It's giving, bullshittery. And I'm like, no, but it is bullshit. And I would really like us to start calling it what it is and stop looking at all of this like we're looking from the outside in.
He better leave Diddy where he at.
Like, for what it is bullshit. And the one thing that I thought was funny before I, tap out on you guys, I'm literally in the lake, was that, like, the guy, I don't know who those bros were, but he was like, oh, but you're just really insulting our intelligence. I'm like, well, you know what? Your intelligence is insulting because the entire time, like, you have no intelligence. So why are we just beating around the bush with these people? This is a huge waste of time when we have straight up fascism going on. And that's pretty much all I got to say about that.
Cherokee.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the reason that we find it fishy is because everything that he's gone after, all the way back to Central Park, no matter how much evidence was presented that it really wasn't that way, he still pursued it over and over again. Yes, it was. Obama's birth certificate. Yes, it was. 2016 election. Yes, it was. Now all of a sudden, Epstein, they're saying, no, it's not. And he's saying, oh, well, okay, yeah, you're right. You're
why are we
right.
talking about that?
So it's not fitting his usual pattern. That's why we're picking up how fishy it is. And I think he thought that maybe he could separate himself, his actions and role in that situation, and just keep attacking the other ones. And when that wasn't going to work, now here we are. And they're like,
played in his face.
Sweep it under the rug.
They had a deal.
That's your opinion. Thank you very much. Katie.
Hi, John.
Hi.
So I wrote a couple of things down. One of the things I just wrote down is Trump is the worst I'm playing dumb person I think I've ever met. Because there's just so much like clear evidence that we've seen his name
what are we doing
multiple
here?
times, like in the Epstein files.
Yeah.
We've seen the videos with him. I literally thought he was about to lick Epstein's ear at one point. He was so close to him. Like, we know there's something fishy going on. So, and it's even more obvious just with his administration, just kind of like either backtracking everything they said or like tiptoeing around everything. And I think that's the biggest tell right there, especially with Bongino, before being like, oh, what's in the Epstein files? What's the Epstein files? And now he's like, he's dead. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
didn't Elon Musk?
And he never answered. And he never answered 20%.
Did he not?
Well, Musk.
And he
Musk
never
tweeted
answered
out that
about
Trump was in
the
Epstein
video
files.
being
But-
cut out or
but
something.
I don't take Elon Musk as a reliable source just because of all of the things that he has done and all the things that he says too. I mean, I would think that he's probably telling the truth because he wants to hurt Trump, but he's still he's not someone I'm going to welcome back with open arms anytime soon.
Interesting. Anybody else dying to say something before I move on to something
I
else? Go
like
ahead,
what he doing to Trump, though. I ain't gonna even lie.
I think seeing Donald Trump doing the white man's overbite in that video from a zillion years ago.
I'm glad you said it because they'll say I'm racist for saying that, but he's like,
does he look like he was ready to pounce on
yes, sir.
young girl?
Shout out to Sylvia for having the number one by her name.
Circumstantially, but obviously everyone's innocent until they're proven guilty, and all that. And I agree with a lot of what the girls were saying before, Cherokee in particular, and Shannon as well, and Katie. Yeah, I thought they all made good points. I don't disagree with anything they said, but it's just something Trump would do.
Yeah. Do you guys now are you guys like the right? In a show of hands, do you want to see the files now? Because before, Democrats was like, I don't care about Jeffrey Epstein, but now that has been so weird the way that they've handled it. Who wants to see the files? Show of hands.
Oh, absolutely.
Put a one in the comment, y'all. If y'all want to see it.
Who doesn't want to see the files?
No.
Why not?
Why?
I want to see the movie.
Oh, okay.
I'm kind of indifferent because I wonder to what end. We see the files and then what? We know that as a whole, this country doesn't really care about women, and because if we did, this file would have been released a long time ago, and actually maybe none of this would have happened. So my question is, to what end? Who's going to be punished for what's found on the list? It's not going to be Trump if he is on the list, allegedly.
Yeah, right.
All right.
Oh my God, I'm so with you. I don't care, because nothing's going to come of it. It's not going to change anybody's mind about him. The MAGAs are going to rally around him and come up with it. I don't care, because it's not going to give us our rights back as women. It's not going to give Medicaid back.
Y'all lost y'all rights with Diddy.
It's not.
I mean, they made everybody hoes.
I don't. Because
one thing though, it's the truth. We deserve to see the truth.
To know the truth.
And we've been lied to too much, and we need the truth.
He needs to be exposed, whether they do something or not.
I was gonna piggyback on something like that. It's not
necessarily about Trump. What you said about when Biden was in office and his DOJ didn't pursue it. I don't think this is just about MAGA or Trump or the Republicans. I think this is just about a lot of people in power, whether Democrat or Republican, left or right. These are about a lot of nasty people with a lot of money and a lot of power. And I, for one, I like to look the devil in the eye. I want to know who the devil is.
I agree.
I want to know who I'm staring at. I want to know the truth. Not that it's going to fix anything.
Not you let a liar lie, they're going to keep on lying.
But I want to know what I'm looking at. So that I can at least be informed going forward.
Maureen.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that too. We need to know the truth. I don't think necessarily it's going to fix everything, but it would be good to know what really went on. Getting tired of hearing about the Epstein case, but we need to know the truth of it. They're hiding something, as we know.
Well, look, I would just to be honest with you guys,
Prime Sleep Super Savings. For a limited time, save $35 when you buy us Sleep Buds.
So
yeah, I want to know.
Was on vacation when all of this, when a lot of this was happening, right? When they were coming up with whatever strategy that they were using, and I wanted to talk about it. And when I was just like, this is, you could see it from, I could see it from a different country that something was fishy, right? Something was not right in Denmark. I could see it. And I wanted to talk about it, but then by the time I got back, the producers and Andy and Nikki and Peter were like, we've talked about it a lot. We talked about it a lot. And I said, but I still haven't had my say. And then this whole Ghislaine Maxwell thing came out. And that's why I said, okay, now we have to discuss it. Now, look, I want you guys, I have an amazing interview. We'll talk about this for as long as you guys want, but I have an amazing interview that I want to play for you next. And it is an exclusive. So I want to play it for you next. But first, support for the Don Lemon Show today comes from BetterHelp, BetterHelp.com. Look, it is not just in the workplace, but I want to talk about workplace stress. Because folks are stressed out right now, but not just in the workplace, but they're stressed out in the workplace. And so, but everybody out there, and before you do, make sure you hit the like, make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you subscribe, and also become a member of the Don Lemon Show, the Don Lemon channel today.
Shout out to Don Lemon.
You guys know what's happening out in California. They're sending in the National Guard. They're sending in troops, military on the ground in California. Nobody's asking for it. Gavin Newsom, the governor's not asking for it, and the mayor of Los Angeles not asking for it as well. They believe that they're trying to undermine their authority there to make a point and make a test case because they want to do this all over the country. I spoke to Karen Bass not long before we started this show.
Okay, y'all, I'm going to get ready to go. I'll be on the back. Let's see it. Okay.
Welcome to the Don Lemon Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Or as we say, welcome to the
Okay, after this, I'm going to go because I'm going to put this on the back.
You know what? I'm doing fine.
So I can lay it down.
The fight. Very, very saddened by what is happening to so many families in our city unnecessarily. Families being torn apart for political posturing and performance. It's been a challenging time right now.
Yeah, political posturing and performance. I'm glad that you mentioned that because it's been really immensely troubling weeks, a couple of weeks for Los Angeles, like just maybe more than a couple of weeks. My audience is very concerned with what they see as effectively a federal occupation of your city, Mayor. The latest escalation came earlier this week when armed troops marched through MacArthur Park, a park where kids play, for seemingly no reason. Now, I want to watch a clip. This is from some of what you said just a few days ago, and then we can expand on it. Here it is.
Frankly, it is outrageous and un-American that we have federal armed vehicles in our parks when nothing is going on in the parks. It's outrageous and un-American that the federal government seized our state's National Guard. It's outrageous and un-American that we have U.S. Marines who are trained to kill foreign soldiers overseas deployed in our American city. So here's the truth. There's no plan other than fear, chaos, and politics.
So my question is, what is going on here? Because I don't see the same sort of treatment of cities with mayors who happen to be Republicans and supporters of this president. So you tell me, what is going on here?
Well, I describe it as Los Angeles as a petri dish. I think they're experimenting with us, experimenting with the notion of the federal government seizing power from a governor and seizing power from a mayor and literally taking over our city with military force. And this is just such a sad picture, Don, because they're marching through a kid's summer camp. And the kids had to be brought inside because they didn't want the kids to see. Because the kids understand ICE. I mean, I was downstairs talking with the kids, and I had an 8-year-old come up to me. He didn't know what was happening, but just start randomly talking about how he was afraid of ICE, and he was mad about it, and then he was afraid that they were going to come take his parents away. So what was the purpose of this, other than to have a raw display of power to say, we can take over your city when we want to? There were no arrests. They didn't even attempt to detain people. They pulled guns on healthcare workers that were in the park because there are a number of people suffering from addiction on the whole other side of the park. They didn't go over there. They went to the side of the park where the children were.
Yeah. Can you hold that thought, please, because you're talking about people suffering from addiction, because I know homelessness is a big issue for you and crime, etc. But let's just stick to this. Have you reached out to the president? Has he reached out to you? Have you two communicated at all?
No, we have
Who is
not. I have a formal request to speak with him, but I haven't had a call with him.
And he has not returned your call, nor the request. Have you heard
I don't know who they are.
Even responded to it?
No, they have not. The response I have heard has been through the press. I have been in contact, though, with the head of Customs and Border Patrol, who essentially was leading that effort in the park. I've been in communication with him, basically, talking about what is the mission here? That's what I was asking him, because when I arrived in the park, I talked to the soldiers. I said, who is in charge here? I want to talk to who's in charge. And they put me on with Greg Bongino, who is in charge of
the man, the
Border Patrol. And I asked him, what is your mission here? What is your purpose? Had a difficult time hearing him, but what I think he said is it was to address crime. Well, the crime that has taken place in that park, and that park has been problematic, what is the Los Angeles Police Department for? We have a police department. Crime is down 40% in that park. Now, is it still a problem? Yes, but it's a problem that we can manage. Just like the protest. Don, they painted a picture like it was 1992 in LA where there were riots all over the city. I called it in 92 a rainbow riot because it took place everywhere and every color was involved. This was protests that at the end of the protest devolved with a couple hundred people, committing chaos like happens after a Laker championship. And they vandalized properties, and then at the worst, several stores were looted. One time, I called a curfew, everything calmed down. There hasn't been any violent protests or anything since they arrived. So what is their purpose except for to create a sense of terror and fear?
Yeah. Let me ask you that question in a different way, because you said you reached out. And by the way, if there's any police department that can deal with riots and that kind of thing, it's the Los Angeles Police Department. If there's any police department that can deal with terrorism, it's the New York City Police Department. But listen, do you see ICE, the National Guard, now the Marines, presence in Los Angeles as an occupation?
Yeah, absolutely it is. It's an occupation that I'm certainly hoping is going to end soon. Because if you remember, Don, just a few short weeks ago, the goal and the mission was drug dealers, hardened gang members, and violent criminals. Now, these men are pulling up in unmarked cars, no license plates, tinted windows, just regular cars, jumping out of the cars with rifles, and snatching people literally off the street. There have been occasions when the police have been called because citizens just watching thought they were watching a kidnapping. And the guys, by the way, are in plain clothes. They have a vest on. Sometimes the vest doesn't have any markings. Sometimes it says police, and that's it. Looking like they got the vest online. How do you know who these are? Because, and by the way, completely masked. And you know
completely
that they have kidnapped people in other states. That hasn't happened here. But they did arrest somebody who had everything in his car ready to go out and impersonate an ICE agent.
I just wonder, I mean, if the folks in your city, obviously, are how they're feeling about this, because to see armed troops, you know, in neighborhoods, military vehicles rolling about, I mean, it feels like a military state. I would not want this in my neighborhoods. And look, by the way, talk about that, and then we're going to talk about homelessness and crime a little bit more. But what are your constituents? What are the citizens of Los Angeles?
Yeah, please hit the like button. I mean, overtime, triple overtime.
You know, well, first of all, the city is united.
I'm gonna lay it down, baby.
You know, you could imagine that in some cities, this could be a very divisive issue with two camps. You know, one camp supporting this and the other camp opposing this. If there's anybody that supports this in LA, I haven't seen nor heard of them. Because everybody understands how egregious this is. Nobody's sitting here defending hardened criminals, but nobody's seen any evidence of hardened criminals either. I mean, you know, Don, that if they had arrested or detained a bunch of drug traffickers, you know, they'd be parading them out. And Secretary Noem came here and she did a slideshow. It was 4 minutes that they kept, you know, showing over and over again, and they have detained hundreds at this point. Many of the people, we don't know where they are. They've had no contact with their families. They've not been afforded legal counsel.
That is horrible.
We do know that they're staying in horribly overcrowded conditions, not receiving proper medical care.
I read somewhere where they said they was feeding them worms.
Families that don't know if their family members are in LA, or in California, or even in the United States. They do not know.
Listen, since you mentioned Kristi Noem, you know, you had Kristi Noem, you know, you had a Senator Padilla being arrested there in California. And then you had the city comptroller here, or being detained or arrested, however you want to, you know, they want to qualify. You had it here in New York City. And the thing is like, I don't understand why they're doing this. Why Kristi Noem and the folks who are there, because I understand that Alex Padilla had an FBI agent escorted him in. She should have known who he was. And so the governor having to go and, you know, get help here, and then the mayor having to go to get help there. Talk to me about that, if you will.
Yeah, well, and you know, the thing about it is that what happens in ordinary circumstances is if we have a problem like a wildfire, a flood, or whatever, and we need the National Guard, we call the governor, and the governor in his power will deploy the National Guard. Since that power was taken away from him, and the Guard was deployed here against our will, they had nothing to do. The only thing they were doing was they were guarding 2 buildings. And if you think about it, the National Guard are different. These are regular community members who are pulled away from their families, their work, their education, and their young people. It disrupts all of that for what? To be used as a prop in a reality show. That's what's so egregious about it. It's a misuse of the young men and women in our country, and it's a completely inappropriate use to have the military fights in foreign lands against the enemy, and they are trained to kill. It is completely inappropriate and unnecessary for the Marines to be in Los Angeles.
It's also bullying. I think it's also bullying you. I think and trying to belittle your position and authority as mayor. And so let's talk about homelessness and crime. And this is something that you don't shy away from. So for the, you know, Donald Trumps and the MAGAs of the world, they say, well, he wouldn't need to do this if they would take care of the homelessness problem, if they would take care of the crime, if there weren't the drugs on the street. Los Angeles is under siege from all of these bad things, and Karen Bass is not doing her job. What do you say to that?
Well, I say stop cutting funding for homelessness, for health care, for substance abuse, and all the things that you're complaining about. No, seriously, we have a very serious problem with over 40,000 people who are homeless in Los Angeles City. Don, this is why I ran, was to address this problem. And I will tell you, in 2.5 years, this is the first time in I don't even know how many years that homelessness has declined. My focus has been primarily on street homelessness, the tents, the encampments that people build, which are really small communities, and getting people off the streets. We totally destroyed the myth that people don't want to leave the streets. That's not true. Not everybody is on the street suffering from substance abuse and mental illness. There needs to be a comprehensive approach. So we have an increase in our shelter population, which is what you want to see, and a decrease in street homelessness. We're doing everything we can to build as fast as possible, but it takes too long to build, even when you fast track everything. That's why we focus on putting people who are on the street in motels and in shelters that offer privacy to get them off the street so that they don't die. 4 to 5 people every day don't wake up in the morning off of our streets. They die on the streets.
You talked about the inhumane nature of what is happening with ICE and, people being threatened and afraid. I just want to show you a scene. I'm not exactly sure. I don't think it's Los Angeles, but these are the things that are problematic and also heart-wrenching to me. I just want you to watch this video because it's going on everywhere. And I want your reaction to it. Here it is.
No. Sir, no. Let's go. No, sir. Todos nos vamos. We're not doing this. Todos nos vamos. All right. Todos nos vamos.
Have a little discretion.
This would be a really discretionary moment. It seems like a moment let them go, right? No entiendo por qué lo están haciendo, pero todos somos familia y nos vamos todos. There's 3 no hay problema. Se van a deportar todos.
Yeah, that's sad. That's sad. He said, give us time.
So, Mayor, we'll let the video continue to play, but take the sound down because you'll see the dad starts to cry. They get in the elevator. The little girl is crying. The wife is crying. And in this particular case, they did not, at this moment, end up taking him away. I don't know, what happened after that. But these are people who are showing up in court, many of them trying to do the right thing, and then they get ambushed after they are leaving, and it's no due process, and it's just inhumane. Is the cruelty the point here?
Absolutely. But now remember the first term. Remember when they took the children away. What they did in the first term, and I went to the border. Don, that was when I was in Congress. I saw this, where they would tell the parents, look, we're taking you to court. We'll take care of your kids. You'll get your kids when you're done with the court. And they don't get their kids back. And Don, to this day, there's about 1,000 children that are floating around our country that they lost track of. Because in the beginning, when they were deliberately taking the kids away, they didn't keep track of them very well. They didn't have a system in place. And so they lost kids.
That's sad.
So, yes. And they were very clear then that cruelty was the point. They were trying to make it so awful that people would say, well, you know what, I'm not even going to try to go. What they're trying to do now is make it so awful that people self-deport and just say, look, let me just get out of here. But they're pulling people and detaining people who've been in the country 10 years, 20 years, people who are showing up for their annual appointment. They have papers, and they're required once a year to go to the immigration office and check in. They do that, and then they're being detained, sometimes with their entire families. That's what that situation could have been. It's cruelty beyond cruelty.
Yeah. And supposedly, we're going to get rid of the violent criminals. That's it. We're not going to end. It shows that they're not.
They've been trying.
Yeah. Let's talk about resources, right?
Okay, because, I got to go to sleep. I got it set up on the back page.
A little bit later, but
I'm going to do it at 12:30.
I'm just wondering if you happen, because there's some news that just happened.
And I'm going to just let it play.
The Washington Post this morning.
Bye.
They're detailing how for months
that the governor of your state, Gavin Newsom, has pressed Congress to free up some $40 billion in federal relief for the swaths of Los Angeles destroyed by the wildfires earlier this year. President Trump and the GOP have so far withheld those funds, arguing that Newsom and you mishandled the fires and should be forced to undo certain liberal policies. That's their words, quote, liberal policies in exchange for aid. But now,
okay, y'all, I'm gonna set it up for 12:30 on the back page and just let it play.
And Republican response is so much different with Trump and others promising unfettered federal support in the months